I can't answer the question.
Recording that, right?
He'll have to.
We
cut
don't
the
generally
recording.
use we don't generally use the recording unless something happens with the recording over there, and if we do, we'll just edit out the executive session.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, committee updates. CPA did not have a meeting. Trails, David?
Trails Committee is meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Meeting last Thursday was postponed.
Anything on lakes, Eric?
Nothing on lakes. Have you heard anything?
Nothing on lakes, okay.
I haven't heard anything.
All right, I'm going to read the opening statement for public hearings so that we have that under our belt, okay? In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area, or within the 200 feet buffer zone of a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with Mass Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the towns of Sturbridge wetland bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad prior to the opening of the first hearing for each project. The applicant is to submit proof of notification to abutters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to each start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. Okay? And I won't ask anybody to sign in, so we're all set on that. So Becky, do you want to go to minutes?
I just want to check and see if Don Taft is on for Hamilton Rod and Gun Club.
Okay. Don, can you hear us?
All right. He may be the person that came on a little early. I thought that yeah, okay.
I
He'll
locked
be coming back on. I figured.
I locked out the meeting, so there were people waiting. They may just try again in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, so first, I guess I just add that Steve Halterman was not present at the last meeting. He has submitted a Mullen form. We do have a Mullen form that he's watched the video, so he can't participate in any of the continued public hearings. So I guess we can do the minutes.
Was that in the minutes? Because I thought it said that we had a full quorum in the minutes.
Oh, there was one absent.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. All right. Good. So we'll start with May 19th, 2020. We'll have a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the May 19th minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
Seconded. Steve Halterman, I second.
Okay. Any discussion by anyone? All in favor? David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Or is anybody continuing?
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
No, you get
Stephen Chidester in favor.
Eric Casper?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Now to the June
Make a motion
2nd.
that we approve the June 2nd minutes as written.
Second? Do I have a second?
Eric Gaspar, second.
Okay. Discussion? Anybody have anything they want to?
This one is,
All right. All in favor? Same. David Barnacle?
this one is a continuation.
Steve Haldeman?
I was not at the meeting, so I excused myself.
Oh, that's
I
right.
can't
Great.
vote.
Yep. Okay. Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chidester in favor.
Eric Casper?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. Becky, did you find your walk-in?
I didn't
No?
see anyone new come on. I have a
No.
couple things we can do while we're waiting. So first, I wanted to ask everyone about our next site visit schedule date because we do have the holiday before our next meeting. So typically, well, we've been changing them a little bit due to my schedule. We would go the week of June 29th. So June 30th is a Tuesday. We have July 1st is a Wednesday, and July 2nd is a Thursday before our meeting. I wanted to see, I mean, I can have some flexibility too with what date would work best for those who can attend the site visit before the next meeting. We do have 8 new public hearings there's Don. 8 new public hearings, some smaller projects, mostly smaller projects, and ones we might not need to go to all of them, but we will have places that will need to be visited. So
For June 30th, is that what you're looking for?
yeah, I can be available that day. That's our typical Tuesday that was working for everybody. If you want to try to do
Does anybody
that.
have a problem with that date?
I am unavailable. I'm unavailable on the 30th.
Anyone else?
Or the 29th.
How about 29th, Eric?
As long as it would be after 10, I could do the 29th. I can't do 9.
10 on the 29th? How's that per date, gentlemen?
Steven?
I think that'll work for me.
It'll work for me. Yeah, it'll
All
work.
right, David? All right, we'll go with the 29th at 10 o'clock.
Okay. So I'll, as usual, I'll send that schedule out
Okay.
on the
we'll
Friday
back on.
before for you.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Got Dawn?
Don, you're on.
I'll start.
Hi,
Go ahead, Don.
So this is a request for the Hamilton Rod and Gun Club for the use of a minor change to our permit for the use of Purcell core, and to issue to our permit.
So it's orders of conditions. This is for the aquatic vegetation management, DP file number 300-739. And like Don said, there's a request for an extension, for a 3-year extension, and the minor amendment change to change the herbicide. So this is consistent with the other requests that we received recently for our other lake managements, where they've all changed the herbicide that's been historically used to this newer chemical, which has gone through some of the processes here for approval. It was approved for other lake uses. I don't see a concern with it. We did, like I said, we did make those approvals for the other lakes within the past few months, 4 or 5 months they've come in front of us.
So the information that we have received in the proposal from Solitudes, who will be doing the application, is that they use less chemical, that's less caustic, and it looks like we may last for 2 or 3 years, so it will be less frequency. And just another note, we are not changing in any way the areas that we would treat. There would still be Pond 1, Pond 2, and the lower, I think it's 8 acres of Pond 3.
Any discussion, gentlemen? David?
No?
Steve Haldeman?
No, I'm good.
Eric?
No discussion. I'm good.
Stephen?
No discussion, I'm good.
And I don't have any discussion either. Becky?
Okay. Do you want to break it down to 2? So 1, do the extension request, and then do the a vote for the amendment request.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to start with the extension request. All in favor of the extension request? David?
Frankel in favor.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gasper?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Becky, you got that?
Yep.
Now we're going to change the chemical. Mr. Barnacle?
In favor, David Barnacle.
Steve Halterman?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chedester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right, thank you very much. Sorry that we're going to have to brainwash you so you didn't hear any of that previous conversation that we had.
I honestly didn't. I'm sorry.
After the black
What is the date of the extension?
Go ahead.
What will be the end date of the extension?
3 years.
So it would extend from
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me, so yeah, it would be 3 years from that one expired. I believe it expired in May, but it's safe because right now all permits, anything that expires under the executive order is automatically extended till 45 days after.
So it'd be
I
May
think we would
23.
use the date. Yep. Yep.
May 23.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Take care, Don. All right,
Thank you.
Becky.
Bye.
Yep.
So we have a few minutes till 6:15. We have another minor amendment request. This is to one of our letter permits for a tree removal. It's SCC number 19-42 at 15 Old Hamilton Road. We did perform a site visit out there last week, a few of us. This was the original request to remove 9 trees. There was an arborist report associated with it. We ended up approving 5 trees to be removed, 2 that needed to be reviewed further in the spring. If you want to move forward with those, he did contact me, and there was 1 tree he was requesting to additionally remove. When we were out on the site visit, he did say that there's actually some of the trees that he doesn't wish to have removed at the time. He would like to, from what was originally approved, keep 2 of those trees, 1 leaning over the house, 1 stem of a double stem tree that's leaning over the garage, and add on this 1 tree behind the house. So he's requesting to revise that permit to be 3 trees, 2 already approved, and 1 newer tree to be approved. We did see some canopy dieback on this tree, probably mostly associated with, why can't I think what it's called now? The gypsy moth there. So,
Gypsy moth?
yeah, thinking of different species.
It's an oak?
So, yep, it's an oak tree. So obviously there was portions of it alive. There was, some, I'd say significant dead wood in the canopy, concern about the tree and failure in the future. So I don't know if Steve and Steven want to add in. They were both on the site and reviewed it. The property owner, I did talk to him about replacements at the end of the site visit, and actually down where the docks are, he said he would be willing to put in 2 maples down. There's like 2 retaining walls in between, which would add a nice canopy, a nice shade for the lake right there, which currently doesn't have. So I thought that would be a good location for replacement.
Steve Haldeman?
Yeah, there was about 25% maybe, or 20% of the completely, the top of the tree is dead. And, we discussed having it just limb the top of it, and, the owner pushed back. He said, this tree is the arborist is dying and just going to have to bring cranes back in another time. So I'm okay with him taking it out.
Stephen?
Yeah, I think the issue was when we originally viewed it, it looked like we couldn't tell because there were no leaves on any of the trees. So now, as Steve mentioned, there is significant dead wood at the top of the tree. the owner, this is the one tree that he wants to get rid of out of everything on the property. It's the one tree that's, you know, between his house and the lake. But he was willing to plant some additional trees down by the water, so I'm fine with having it removed as long as we get those replacements and we, you know, have something the conditions that the replacement will that we validate that it takes, that it doesn't die off.
Okay. Eric, do you have any?
No, I'm good.
Good. And David?
No comment.
All right. Let's show of hands. Mr. Barnacle?
I'm in favor, David Barnacle.
Steve Haldeman?
Steve Halterman, I'm in favor.
Stephen Chidester?
I'm in favor.
Eric Gasper?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All set, Becky?
Yes, yep.
All right. So we are back to 1 Adams Road. Request for determination of applicability. D. McGill, owner, construction of a detached 3-car garage to existing single-family home and associated work.
Yeah, I did. David's on, by the way. I just joined in with you guys for 6:15. Hello.
Great. I just want to add, I had proof of the legal ad and the abutter notifications for the public hearing. Jeff, can you make it possible that I can share my screen, please?
Yep.
So, David, I'm going to put the plan up on top so everyone can view it here. Oh, here we go. You just want to go over, do you want me to zoom in?
You know, I'm on, I can walk you through it visually. I'm on my phone. So
Oh, okay. That's fine. Yep. If you just want to go over what the project is, I can fill in the rest for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we have, I had gentlemen come out and do a survey of the property. As you can see, that I guess that's what you're looking at there in front of you. The request is to clear 50 by 35 location on the property to put in a 28 by 42 garage pad, which would allow for a 3-bay garage to go onto the property there. The 1-story garage will have attic space overhead, and that's about it. When they conservation group came out to look at the site, they noted a large oak tree that was like right towards the back of the area, as well as it said oak, but I'm pretty sure the second tree that was being identified it's on the other side, and it's big, but it's actually a pine tree. But both of those are another 12 to 15 feet beyond my requested buffer zone. So the request was for me to make sure that they could stay, and I had Joe Levesque, is the guy who did the survey, added that onto the updated drawings. I've got no problem complying with your request because they're well beyond, our working space.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I don't know if am I supposed to have more to say than that? I'm not sure.
No, that's fine. I can
Okay.
go over the rest for the plan. So this is a revised plan. I did put that in my notes that we had asked for one that showed kind of a complete limit of work. So that way it's very clear when they go out and do the work where that limit is, to kind of avoid clearing the rest of the area unnecessarily. So you can see we've got Cedar Lake on the left side of the plan here. This project is located outside of the 100-foot buffer. You can see that right here. He does have, on both sides of the house, does have forested areas. There's a lot of mature trees in this area. So siting of the garage in this location versus adjacent to the house, it is definitely a benefit. It's further from the resource area. It will result in tree loss, no real big mature trees there. If he did site it next to the lake over here, there are some significant big trees over there that would be lost. So I think this is probably the better of the potential locations for the garage. This is a request for determination of applicability because he's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone for this project with the determination. I mean, I would recommend approval of this project with conditions, obviously, during construction. What we typically would do, have a pre-construction meeting, erosion controls, meet with the contractor, et cetera. I don't see a need for tree replacement because both sides of the house near the shoreline are very well vegetated. I would recommend for a determination to, like I said, approve the project, which would be an issuance of a positive number 5, meaning it's subject to the local bylaw with conditions. And then it would be a negative. No, I want to say a negative 4. Negative 4.
Oh man, I had written down 3 too.
Yeah, I know. That's the typical one. But so that negative 4 says the work described in the request is not within an area subject to protection under the Act, including the buffer zone. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent unless and until said work alters an area subject to protection under the Act. So no formal Wetland Protection Act review required, is just approval under our local bylaw.
Good. Do I have a,
Make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, Mr. Barnacle.
I move that for the request for determination of applicability at 1 Adams Road, that we approve it with a positive 5 and a negative 4.
Do we need to get public, make sure there's no public comment?
Oh, thanks, Stephen.
All right, let me check.
Jeff, do we have anybody in the public?
Let me check.
Thanks, Stephen. Everybody has to have a conscience.
Oh, I don't.
Hello, this is the public
Oh, you
hearing
don't.
before the Conservation Commission for 1 Adams Road, request for determination of applicability. This is the public hearing for 1 Adams Road, request for determination of applicability. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak? No comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. All right, David, we're back to your proposal.
I just need a second. Steve, David, second that motion.
Oh, yep. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Mr. Barnacle.
David Barnacle in favor.
Mr. Haldeman.
Haldeman in favor.
Mr. Gedester.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
And Eric Gaspar.
Eric Gaspar in favor. But when David said he needed a second, I thought he needed a second.
I did too. I did too, the way he said it. And a good one in favor. All right, Becky. It's the way he said it. I know it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dave. You're all set. I will issue a letter and a determination, which will send certified mail to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Anything else I need to do other than get quotes and get plans and then plan on having the pre-construction meeting with you guys?
No, not right now. There's no, for a determination, you don't need to do anything like recording with the registry or anything of that nature. So we'll issue you the letter, and when right before you're getting ready to start work and you get a contractor lined up, I'll outline everything in the letter. Just give me a call. We can go over setting up that pre-construction meeting with yourself and the contractor. Okay?
Been wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we have 6 minutes, Beck.
I don't really have any fillers here, unfortunately. I mean, we have other agenda items, but they're more lengthy discussions that I told people to call in at the end of the public hearings for. I mean, if you like, I do think
for South Pond.
if you don't, that's up to you. I do think that we have someone from a representative for QQLA calling in for that.
Okay.
That's the same thing. It's the same minor amendment request to change the herbicide use. If you have no questions or concerns, then I guess you could consider acting on it, if you're favorable now and then just informing them when they come on later, that's up to you.
No, we might as well wait. What else have we got?
So we have Raul will be calling in from Cedar Lake Association. We have our consultant went out to do a review of the Mass Turnpike field drainage assessment. So he'll be calling in afterwards to discuss that with us, and then we can also fill you in. We had a few of us had a site visit out there recently with DOT and their consultant. So there's an update there, but we'll be waiting
But
for.
we're gonna have to wait on that. What about the agent's report?
Well, you guys haven't been letting me have any time at the end, so I don't have a full agent's report.
Okay, so you don't have
for
an
you,
agent's
but-
report.
No.
God, you know,
Well,
just when you need an agent's report.
Yeah, I know. Most of the time you're cutting me off at the end. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But just to let you
we're
know,
begging
actually, I was gonna inform you that the Petrogas project here on Route 15, the old Roy Rogers mobile station, they've been making some really good progress over there. I was out there last week with our third-party environmental monitor, Art Allen, and we met with the contractors and the landscaper. They've made a lot of progress on the stream restoration. As you might remember, that was held up because of the telephone pole that needed to be moved. So I was informed today that all the wetland restoration plantings went in over there. So they're doing a really good job to button that up, making some good progress. I would anticipate that they still have a lot of work to do on one portion of the site. They've been kind of phasing it as they've been phasing the relocation of the gas station and reopening. But it looks like the portion where the actual the service station and the gas pumps, most of that work is done. Obviously, we've got to get a lot of seed growing and things like that. So they'll be shifting to focus on the other side of the parking lot, getting that done and getting the stormwater system for that side finished. So
Good.
happy with the progress over there.
Can I say something, please?
What did they end up doing with the giant sinkhole? Did they fill it with riprap?
Becky, can you turn off your screen
no.
share?
Jeff, go ahead. What?
Becky, please turn off your screen share.
I don't know how to turn off the screen share.
Those four little dots at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I got
There
it.
you go.
I
Thank
found
you.
it.
Yeah, just
Oh, that's a
easier
much
for the
better
public to see the conversation when you're not having stuff up. Thank you.
So, Dave,
right.
that whole section was regraded down as part of the embankment to the stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but all the old pipes were filled in too, so you know.
Oh, I didn't think they were moving those suckers.
Mhm.
Anything else we can report? The
It is 6:30, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Barnacle, I have 6:28 p.m. I don't want to start before. I was actually asked on the phone by a resident today if we ever started before it was legal to start the meeting, and I told them absolutely not. So it's got to be at least perfect for one night. We're at 29.
Just to let you,
He also
I'll
said
give you the
that
minute.
the area on Fisk Hill where that pond was, quote, drained, flooded down below, and it was after he heard shooting. I didn't know we shot beaver. Is that legal to shoot beaver now?
What area are you talking about?
Fisk Hill.
So they can't.
130 to 140 Fisk Hill Road.
So they can, during regular trapping season, they can go in and trap them. And I do believe that
Shooting
they
is a part of
trap them
trapping.
and they do shoot them. I think so. I have
Oh, okay.
heard of that before. Now, if they, that's during normal trapping season, and then they can get a permit from Board of Health to remove nuisance beavers outside of the trapping season.
All right, that's a long minute. We're at 6:30. I will read 400 Haynes Street, Notice of Intent, DEP file number 300, TBD, continued from June 2nd. Biaslip of Pilot Travel Center, LLC, applicant A. Roscoe from Core Estates Group, representative. Commercial redevelopment to include demolition of the travel center, the convenience store, and the fuel pumping facilities, and the construction of a new travel center parking lot and fuel pumping facilities. Okay. We have Brad, he's here.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Brad. Alan Roscoe, our civil engineer, is trying to log in, but he's getting a message that you guys need to let him in.
It's the meeting.
Jeff, did you hear that?
Yeah, the meeting's unlocked. He should be able to just jump right in. He may have to back out all the way and try again.
Okay.
There he is. No,
me.
Andrew Baum. No.
Oh, Jeff. Andrew's shoulder.
All right.
Yeah.
So while we're waiting for, oh, I see an AR there. There he is.
All right.
Andrew?
So just for a quick recap here, so this was continued from the last meeting. We do have a third-party stormwater review being undertaken. You were provided with, we did have a letter from our engineer with his initial comments on the project. So since that's been sent to you, there was on Friday evening, we did get some comments back in response to that and a few revised sheets. John Shevlin is hopefully joining us. That's our third-party engineer reviewer. He did have another meeting which he was scheduled for this evening, so he will try to attend and be able to provide some comment here. But what I thought would be useful at this time is to allow the project team to kind of go over where things are with some of the changes with the plans, et cetera, and their comments for the third-party review. And then if John's on, we can let him provide a little additional feedback, and then we can provide our comments as well. And just so the commission is aware, DEP did issue a file number yesterday for the project, so it does have a file number with some comments as well.
What's the number?
Jeff, it's DEP 300-1063. So it's not on the agenda because we posted it on Thursday. So.
Okay. Yep.
And I can put the plans up. Just wait till Jeff gets back and he gives me the screen sharing ability again here.
Oh, Becky, you still have it. You just need to hit one of those, the circle down at the bottom that says screen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. There you go.
Everyone, this is Brad. I'll get started. First off, thank you again for continuing this. Hopefully we'll get through it, if not this meeting, in the next meeting. As Becky said, we do have the DEP file number. We have received comments from Mr. Shevlin's review, and we're working to address all of those. I believe Alan Roscoe, our engineer, sent over some revisions to Mr. Shevlin and Rebecca and Jean on Friday of last week. Obviously a quick turnaround to try to get things reviewed before this meeting. So we are pushing diligently to get this project designed in a satisfactory manner for the town to meet all of the applicable ordinances, obviously the state ordinances, and certainly in a way that will allow us to operate in a much more efficient manner. The one thing I would ask everybody to keep in mind is that all of the efforts we're making, even if they're not textbook perfect, are certainly going to improve the situation. So we're doing the best we can to meet all of the regulations, but we are, I'm not going to say hamstrung, but we're captive to the site conditions that we're trying to work around. So do appreciate your consideration of that. With that said, I'll turn it over to Alan Roscoe so he can go through, from a technical standpoint, some of the changes that we've made in response to Mr. Shevlin's comment, and I believe he can also address how we will deal with the DEP comments that we just received yesterday. So, Alan?
Yeah, thanks, folks. Sorry, the meeting ID number in the body of the email is the correct one, but in the instruction sheet, it's a different one. So I was having some trouble getting signed in here, but thank you for waiting for me. So, yeah, we made a number of revisions since we last met in response to the initial comments that we got from Power Corporation. And we got a more refined review during the week last week, and then jumped on those to address those comments and get something back to you folks so you could perhaps have an opportunity to review them over the weekend. And that may not have happened, but there is still a little bit more work left to do. After we got the file number yesterday, there was some comments that DEP want to make sure that we addressed. So yes, we're going to address all of the comments received to date. In a nutshell, we had discussed the last time relocating one of the stormwater basins, and the reason for that was to take it out of the protective radius around the wellhead for the public water supply that serves the hotel and this site. So that was moved to the west of the common driveway that serves the hotel and the pond. So we may have to relocate or make some adjustments to meet one of the criteria that the DEP related to make sure that all of that, the working part of that basin will be more than 50 feet from the wetland. And it skirts right along that 50-foot line, but we'll make some minor adjustments to that to keep it outside of the 50 foot. And that's the area there, yes, exactly. And then simultaneously, we've been, updating some of the utilities. We're adding a septic tank and a lift station to serve the wastewater plant that will serve the travel center itself, and that would be for the retail and for the restaurant and dining options that we'll be providing there. So those elements will be added to the plan in the coming days, so that we have a fully ready construction set when we go to construction. We're also working through our permit with DOT. That is pending. They are currently reviewing all of those improvements. We had a discussion a week or so ago regarding the added third driveway. Initially, there was some reluctance to allow that to go forward, but we're making progress with the DOT folks to make sure that, at least during construction, we have an option to get people on and off the site. So those are the kinds of things that have been going on in the background, and we added the wetlands flags that hadn't been located before in a little stretch near the cross culvert. So those items have been added. We've also added the riverfront zone that Rebecca had requested that we add in that same area where the culvert exit is, right on the left-hand side of this screen. So you can see the beginnings of that rectangular riverfront zone that we've added to the drawing, and then we've also updated our tabulation on the total riverfront zone for the project. So those are some of the basics, and we can go through item by item on the the DEP comments, but by and large, it's really just reiterating codes and standards that we already know about, and we do have some refinements to make, and we will address all of those comments in the next coming days.
Okay. Alan, can you just kind of give a quick overview of how this stormwater system works with, like, especially with the treatment and the diverter system that's in there?
Right, yeah, sure. This is a land use with high potential pollutant load, being a travel center, being, a fueling station. So we have high standards in terms of pretreatment and for eventual treatment of the stormwater itself. So it's pretty much prescribed that you have to put in gas traps in all the catch basins, and then have an oil water separator, which effectively creates your pretreatment options. So we've added those oil water separators where there aren't any. There were some that were existing on the property, to their credit. And then following the pretreatment system, that has to capture 46 or 44% rather of the total suspended solids load. So those two items together with, street sweeping, pavement sweeping, and seasonal removal of sediments, those three items together constitute your pretreatment system. And that achieves 46%. So we meet that standard. And then following pretreatment, you go to another device, which is your infiltration system. And that assists with not only reducing the quantity of stormwater, it improves the quality because now you're infiltrating it into the groundwater regime and getting filtration that way as well. The oil water separators are designed to be a first flush mechanism. So it's an offline system, and it will capture the first flush or the first beginnings of a storm and pass it through the oil water separator, which then diverts it, captures the pollutants in the chambers within the tank, and then discharges the water to the next part of the treatment train. So it is designed so that in large storms it will bypass and allow the flows to go through the pipeline. But your first flush is going to pick up 80 to 90% of your pollutants anyway. So in that sense, the stormwater that comes later on in the storm, is a lot cleaner than your first couple of inches of rainfall, so that can be allowed to bypass. But again, we've reduced quantity because we're reducing impervious, and then we're also improving the quality by using all of these items in the treatment trains.
Comments from the commission? Anybody? Questions?
What about Becky?
Becky, do you have any more questions?
No. I mean, I have some comments, and I think that obviously we got to continue working with John Shevlin with the third-party review. There's a lot of details, a lot of little some different comments that I know the project team is working on. So some of those smaller things can get saved. I guess just right. The big emphasis here is to make sure, because it's the land use with a high pollutant load, that we are doing the best we can to capture and remove sediments and pollutants here, especially because not only is it a cold water fisheries resource, but it's also the public water supply groundwater protection area. So I just think, as I've been emphasizing along, just to make sure that because we have the type of land use it is, and then we have those critical areas, just to make sure that we are doing the best we can in meeting the standards set for both critical areas and the land use of the high pollutant load. One thing, and I know it's been said that will come, is the operation and maintenance plan. So I know that it says in the comment comments back to John Shevlin that you're working on that. It's being developed and will be submitted. So it will be important to see all of those EMPs that will be put forth, street sweeping and things like that, that add to your TSS removal. So that will be important. One other thing too that I had noted in Standard 6, which deals with critical areas, also talks about discharges complying with applicable requirements under the Massachusetts Clean Waters Act. So that's just something that we'll have to make sure you guys are addressing there too. And I can share that language afterwards.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we're at
If
6.
I will, sorry, the operations and maintenance, we call it a spill prevention control and countermeasures plan, and we will update our plan that we have for the existing site to reflect the new site. We were hoping to get a little further into the approval process so that we could update it once. I will use the latest set of plans and go ahead and get that updated so you can see the type of things that we're going to include in there for your comment. And Becky, I'll get that to you as quickly as I can.
Okay, sounds good. Speaking of that, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and that will include, all the items that we're adding and keeping as part of the system, maintenance schedules, how to dispose of, accumulated debris and all those kinds of things. So that'll be part and parcel of what we'll be submitting.
Okay. Also, too, I just want to remind everyone, a few things we talked about last time was the fence in the truck parking area to prevent the dumping, and then the inclusion of the gate over the spillway there.
Yes, we have added in the fence already onto the plans, and then the gate over the spillway. Honestly, I haven't paid attention. I'll see if you've added that, but that's an easy thing to do. We will make sure that's on the next submission.
Okay. And then one more, sorry. The fire suppression system, did you guys have any update on what and if you needed to make those modifications yet? Just thinking when we're getting ready to issue a permit that will be direct, like land underwater impact that I'll need to account for on your permit. So just if you have any update on that, the sooner we can get that, the better.
So I think, Becky, the plan, I guess the best thing to do is include that in the permit. We won't know until we have a crew out there during construction assessing it. Once we take out the existing fire pump, we will be able to really evaluate the existing line in a way that we can't do with the pump in place. So I'm not going to know that until we're in construction, but let's just include that as a potential in the permit. We'll plan for it, and if we don't have to do it, great. That's one less impact that we have to actually do.
Okay. Yeah,
all right, I'm going to cut it off here, Becky. We're at, we need to move. We have a 6:45, so, and this isn't going to finish now, so made some progress.
I can talk offline with them about some of that.
Yeah, right.
Becky,
all right,
so a call tomorrow. That'd be great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Do we need to?
Brad, do you want to request a continuance?
Yes, please.
Do I have a motion to accept a continuance?
So moved.
Second?
Ed, what if members of the commission had questions that would be relevant to the changes they're making on the plans?
I beg your pardon? Is there a question you had, David?
I had several, and I assume other members have some too.
Yeah, I have.
All right, well, go. Then I stand corrected and go with your question, David.
Well, the first one is on the BMPs. I agree with what Becky said, but one of the things we have to make sure that they include in the BMPs is that when they do the checklist with all of their testing and their street sweeping, et cetera, which is supposed to be a minimum of twice a year, they have to submit that directly to the agent so that we have some indication that, in fact, these things are being taken care of. The second question that I had, Eric brought up a really interesting point about fence and the boulders at the last meeting. And one of the things that I was thinking of is because of the way that Eric described what big trucks are liable to do, I wonder if it wouldn't be important for us to actually have a minimum distance away from the fence that those big boulders would be put. Because I'm assuming from the big truck's position that even just a slight nudge is going to move the rock 3 or 4 inches. And over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to move the rock foot and a half, 2 feet back toward the fence so that they can dump.
Well,
So if we need to have some kind of a number so that when we go out and look at it, we can say, well, no wonder they're dumping it over the fence. That boulder has been moved by a foot and a half, 2 feet.
I do understand what you're saying. I do have to be careful from a spacing standpoint. If we put the boulders too far away, I'm going to create a huge traffic problem within the site because the trucks won't have room to get into the parking spaces, get out, and circulate. So we have space to put the boulders. We don't have space to put the fence right at the curb line and then put, say, 10 feet between that and the boulder. It'll create a traffic problem. You know, we can use the boulders. We have them. It's an easy thing to do. I think it's probably more visually appealing than putting a row of 3-foot bollards in those parking spaces. I can do that. So I think maybe that needs to be part of the best management practices plan is that we set them at a distance that allows us to have appropriate parking but protects against dumping. And we just have to make sure that they stay that way. And if they get pushed back, we have to fix it. I would be certainly amenable to that.
Okay. My last question, Mr. Chairman, is there was an indication that overflow diverters were going to be used. And yet I didn't see any place on the plan that indicated that there was any kind of treatment to the flow after moving from the overflow diverters. Does that infer that the materials that are extant on the floor of that giant parking area can simply flow to one of the diverters and then exit into the stream bed?
No, the pollutants and sediment will be captured in the oil water separators, and then the clean water is allowed to flow through because we've got a series of baffles and chambers. So the pollutants might be floating, and then the sediments will settle, and then clean water can be allowed to bypass and go through. The diverters are inside the manholes in front of the oil water separators. So it'll capture the low flows, and then at the point where those diverters are exceeded, it can bypass, but at that point, the stormwater is essentially clean. Because we've captured all the pollutants in that first flush. That's the way it's designed.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Mr. Chairman.
Eric, you had a question? No? Stephen?
I guess I'm good. I was curious about the fence too, but Dave just covered it.
Oh yeah, we covered it at the last meeting, and he said at this meeting that they were going to address it. So,
Right.
Mr. Haldeman, get it?
Yeah, when the operation and maintenance plan was mentioned, you said that was essentially your spill prevention SPCC plan. But the SPCC plan generally is just for spills of oil or fuel and so on. So is there an operation and maintenance plan that does indeed talk about other things such as street sweeping, which I think is really critical?
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll use the SPCC as our basis, and we will expand that to include all of the other information, the sweeping. We'll probably have the snow removal and storage in there as well. Try to include it all in one document so that we're not all saying, well, which document do we use? It's all in one place.
And yes, to your point, there'll be a schedule, and then that reporting component that was mentioned earlier. The documents, once you've done your inspections, then that document gets forwarded to the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board.
Now, this is a slightly different sort of situation from a normal SPCC plan, is that, they generally are discussing fuel storage tanks, generally. In this situation, you've got a large number of trucks that are parked there for long periods of time. What about, spills out of tanks on trucks? I mean, it happens. How is that factored into any of this?
Well, if it's a fuel spill, no matter where it comes from, whether it's a tank, whether it's a truck that's on the site, whether it's just somebody crazy that comes up and just opens the fuel nozzle and lets it flow, our SPCC will cover all fuel spills, period. If it's something else that's on a tanker truck, certainly we can't plan for everything that might be in there, but there will be planning for the appropriate authorities to call and things like that, so that we can ensure that it is handled in a obviously a rapid fashion, but in an appropriate fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
Check and
They've
make sure
requested Steve, what? Stephen?
should check and make sure there's no one from the public that wants to comment.
Yes.
Yep.
Jeff?
Sure.
Vice Chairman strikes again.
Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak regarding the Pilot Travel Center application? Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak regarding the Pilot Travel Center application? No one's on the phone, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Brad, you're asking for a continuation?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion?
You already have a motion. You're just looking for a second.
Okay. Do I have a second? David, do you need a second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor? Mr. Barnacle? Mr. Haldeman?
Steve Haldeman, in favor.
Mr. Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
And Mr. Gaspar?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Gentlemen, we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
So it'll be
Thank you, folks.
July 7th at 8:15.
8:15, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now at 6 and 8 Picker Road. Request for determination of applicability continued from June 2nd, 2020. New England Cold Storage, LLC, applicant Mr. G. Kravosky, EBT Engineering Consultant, representative for the construction of a temporary access road at 6 and 8 Picker Road.
Thank you, Chairman. Becky?
Mr. Kravosky? I don't see him.
Becky?
He's got to be here.
Yep, I'm here.
Well, Mr. Goodwin asked for you first, so that's why I said Becky. So
I'll take either one.
First, I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Glenn.
Go on. Well, again, Mr. Panis of Harco had expressed on 6/1/20 through a letter on their importance to access the site, to become under construction while they're building the proposed access way. And we would hope that you had reviewed that. We did move the access way outside the 25-foot zone. We are going through number 8 Picker Road to gain access to 6 Picker Road. We have used stabilization of the surface, check dams on it, small basin at the bottom, and a minimum alteration just to get into the site again with the equipment to start grading and working on the building. Well, it might take a couple of months to build the access way off of 6 Picker, the permanent access. So you see the plan, and that's our proposal for the RDA. We that we'll leave it at that until we hear from you again.
So just to be clear, Glenn, I mean, this is a plan that does show additional work on it. So the only thing that you're asking under this request is for the access way that comes through 8 Picker onto 6 Picker.
Yeah.
Everything else, okay, everything else in the plan, including, you know, the change of the tree line, the clearing of the site, starting work on the bridge crossing, et cetera, is not part of your request. It's just to come through here.
That's correct. That's part of the notice of intent for the development of the site.
Okay.
The other work on the plan.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to be clear on that. So I'm just going to zoom in. Is there anything else you want to add, Glenn?
No, we would stabilize once the the temporary access way is utilized. We would then fill the area back in, loam and seed it. If there's a requirement within the 25 to 50, we would put brush in there or natural vegetation, revegetate it.
Okay.
Hydrograss also, for rapid stabilization. I'm sorry, hydrograss also.
Okay. All right, so review of this. This is a request for determination of applicability, and there are certain projects based off the scope and location of them that can move forward underneath the determination process if you elect that they meet that criteria. So if you look at this,
One second, Becky. Why is this not a notice of intent?
Well, that's right. That's where I'm going. Well, so they submitted a request for determination of applicability. You know, they have the ability to submit that first to get a determination if you think a notice of intent needs to be submitted, or if you think that the project can be conditioned and doesn't require a notice of intent. So that's part of where you get to issue your determination based off what you think about the nature of the project. So if you look at the plan here, you know, you can see we've got the wetland flags here. You can see where my mouse is. And then we have 25-foot buffer, 50-foot buffer, and a 100-foot buffer. So we do have some existing areas associated with the business on 8 Picker. However, you know, you can see that even within the 50-foot here, and especially within the 100-foot, I mean, there's clearing and grading within this area, and then the installation of this access road. Based off the scope of the work, I think it exceeds what you can prove for the determination process. I do think that it would require a notice of intent. With that said, you know, as part of if you make that determination that it requires the notice of intent, that's something that obviously you can take into consideration. The benefits, the pros and cons. They have asked for a temporary access to help speed up the work in the rear of the property while they're waiting for the bridge, and that's something that you can discuss afterwards. My recommendation, based off the scope of the work, I do think that it needs a notice of intent, and I think that it probably could be included with the existing notice of intent.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
But we would, if I could add, then we would have to amend the notice of intent to add this aspect into the existing notice of intent, as I think you're alluding to.
Okay. Let me go. Let's hear from the committee. David?
That was my primary question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Steve Halterman.
Yeah, this is Steve Alderman. I tend to agree that this should be in a notice of intent, and certainly go along with, or listen very carefully to Becky's recommendation on this, which is included in.
Stephen?
I agree. It should have a notice of intent, just as Steve said.
Eric?
Just so I'm clear, Becky, can you show me where the property line is? Like, this is an RDA for 8, but isn't this 8 extended on to 6? Because isn't
It's
there
an RDA
very
for
little work?
Yeah,
6 and
it's 6 and 8.
6 and
And
8,
then
okay.
I think the property line, Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the property line will be changing here. Is that correct?
Andrew, you can show them that property line? Andrew, hear me?
Yep. Yeah, Becky, you're following it, and then right there.
And it changes right here?
No, to the east. There was a parcel swap right there, yep.
Okay.
Right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the work is on both.
Yep, the work is on both.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. I would tend to agree with the extent of work that's being done on the 2 properties. I don't think we can do this through an RDA.
All right.
Thank you for that. And just a point on that matter, as you know, that any work in the buffer zone could be permitted under an RDA if the commission felt that it will not affect the resource area. You shall file a notice of intent if the work or has a high likelihood of affecting the resource area. We put the mitigation in the plan, moved it away so that we could demonstrate that we were not going to be affecting the resource area. In fact, I added in the crushed stone surface on the roadway to ensure that we had a stable surface during that couple of months of utilizing. And also the engineer added in the check dams, and we again moved it out of the 25-foot zone and put that temporary small basin at the bottom. That being said, I'm hearing what the commission says.
Yeah, I agree with the commission too. So we've really got 5 that would like to see a notice of intent. How would you like to work it?
We would like to amend the existing notice of intent to include this work. So
Okay.
we would do that. We know that you're looking at a peer reviewer. We're looking at submitting documentation on 2 accesses that had been suggested or that might be looked at, the 8-picker and the 49. We have documentation from DOT, and we have documentation from the Engineers Summit showing, and also some wording from Jean Bourbon on what the planning board, and not speaking for her, might approve or not approve at 8-picker. So we want to be able to submit that. We would please be submitting that paperwork tomorrow or Thursday at the latest, so that your peer reviewer would also have this document to review. Documentation, excuse me, along with the application.
When are you going before the planning board?
Andy? Andrew?
Oh, sorry. Is Brady on? You could probably answer that better than I can.
Brady Panis?
I'm on the phone. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
That date is still to be determined yet.
TBD, huh? So you want to move this along and
give us the positive.
file?
I would ask that we do get the positive, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, Chairman, I'm going through Robert's Rules of Order. So, through the Chairman, we would then ask that you do move forward with the positive determination, and then we would, Becky did suggest, and we would hope that we could go that route by amending the existing notice of intent to add this work in to the existing notice of intent.
Okay. Well, we'll give you the positive determination. That's the first thing, right, Becky? That would be separate.
Yep. So let's do that. So it's going to be, I'm going to recommend that it's a positive number 4. The work described in the reference plans, etc., is within the buffer zone, will alter an area, therefore work that requires the filing of a notice of intent. Positive number 5, the area and or work described in the reference plans is subject to review and approval under our local stormwater bylaws. And then also, just because we haven't fully approved any resource area delineation on 6-picker Road, I'm going to say that we add the positive 2B. Boundaries of resource areas listed below are not conform regardless of whether the boundaries are contained on said plan.
Thank you. If I could, Mr. Chairman. But we did agree on the resource areas through that and read on number 6. We can agree on that, I believe.
You guys submitted one for 8-picker Road, and we agreed on that so far. Yeah, but not 6. So I just want to be clear that we're just, it's not.
Thank you.
If we do this, we're still going to have the 6 and 8 confusion.
Confusion?
What confusion?
Through the chairman, could you, Mr. Barnacle, could you explain the confusion so I write it down?
The fact is that you have to do something on 6 before you can do something on 8.
I think they're requesting to amend their notice of intent to include this temporary access on
Right.
8.
That's correct.
And I think it'll all be looked at the same time.
Okay.
Right. So that should not be, that, for me, that's more clarification.
Might be, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Glenn.
All right, so I'm asking, the
I will
board
make a
for,
motion with all of the numbers that Becky put on it in terms of a positive determination.
be a positive 5 and a positive 4.
And a 2B.
And a 2B.
And 2B. Do I have a second?
Second. Eric
Steve
Gaspar.
Halterman, Eric and I will.
Eric seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the positive determination on the request for determination? Mr. Barnacle?
Do we still have to go to the public before we do this?
Yes. Jeff, could we check to see if there's anybody on the...
Sure.
Stephen, you let me down. Barnacle,
He was testing us.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the phone who'd like to speak on 6 and 8 Picker Road, request for determination of applicability? Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak regarding 6 and 8 Picker Road, request for determination of applicability? There's no one on the phone, Mr. Chair.
David
Thank you,
Barnacle,
Jeff.
in favor of the motion.
Steve Haldeman,
Steve Halterman, I'm in favor of the motion.
Stephen Chidester,
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gasper,
Eric Gaspar in favor.
and Ed Goodwin in favor. All
Thank
right.
you, Commissioner.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes, sir.
we are,
Well, Ed, hang on. Don't we need to close this particular public hearing for 6 and 8, since we're going to get a new RDA? I'm sorry, and
yes, we did need to close it.
I don't think we're going to get a new RDA.
Yeah,
No.
so, but we need to close this
Close
public
it.
hearing.
Yes.
I'd like to go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we close this public hearing.
Do I have a second on that?
Steve Halterman, I second it.
Discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Barnacle, how do you vote?
Barnacle, in favor.
Steve Haldeman,
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chidester,
Stephen Chittister in favor.
and Eric Gaspar,
Eric Gaspar in favor.
and Ed Goodwin in favor. Okay, so that is closed.
Thank you. Glenn Kowalski.
Yep. Now we're at 7 o'clock. We have a notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1062 for New England Cold Storage LLC application. Mr. Grabowski again, EBT Engineering
Please,
Consultant.
sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
How do you want to work with this?
Rebecca?
Yep, thank you. So just as a reminder, so this was a continuation from our last meeting. At the last meeting, you did vote and selected a peer reviewer for stormwater management review. The engineer was notified, and it's my understanding that that review is now underway. No findings have been submitted on his review to date. You also voted for a peer review from a wetland consultant for the notice of intent. I did send out requests for proposals to 4 different agencies. We did receive 2 back, which you were provided with. We have a proposal from Art Allen with Ecotech and GZA Associates. So both agencies we've used in the past. GZA we've only used for wetland delineation review. Ecotech with Art Allen, we've done both notice of intent reviews and wetland delineations. For this, my recommendation would be to go with Art Allen. I think they're both capable, but historically we've used Art for both of these types of requests, and he's done a great job with that, and he did indicate that his report would be returned sooner. So that would be my recommendation. One other comment, I would recommend for the applicant to start working to address some of DEP's comments that came through with the file number, including a thorough review and documentation of alternative analysis. I know Mr. Kowalski mentioned they're starting to work on that. And then also, as for the limited crossing standards, there is language in there about discussion with planning board about the width of the roadway. I know that it was mentioned earlier that the actual meeting with the planning board hasn't been set yet, but you said you might have some language from our town planner, but make sure you include that with that. So the sooner we get that information too from you, we can get that over to the third-party reviewer and get that process moving forward for you. So at this time, I think we're going to request that you've looked at those proposals and discuss and make a vote on which consultant you'd like to use for the third party.
I move that we use Ecotech as a third-party reviewer for this project on Picker Road.
Do I have a second on that? Second, Stephen Chidester. Discussion? Oh, from my point of view, we've always had really good success with Art Allen. I'd recommend him. Anybody else have a comment?
Oh, we need a vote.
Yeah, I know. All right.
No, I agree. Art's done a nice job.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a recommendation? David, did you consider? Was that a recommendation you gave, or just an opinion?
Certainly was.
Okay.
It was in the form
do I have
of
a second on that?
Yeah, mine was the second.
Okay, it was. Okay. All in favor, David?
Lou Barnacle in favor.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. Moving on. Anything else we need to do with Picker besides a continuation?
Just briefly, Mr. Kowalski, Glenn Kowalski, I'm sorry, just briefly, that we do have the documents prepared, or with a minimum of time, possibly tomorrow, we'll have them put together and submitted to you. So Mr. Allen will submit them from Becky, and obviously you'll pass them off to Mr. Allen. But they will cover the replication, the 2 alternatives, 49 and also at 8, and replication and detail on that design, along with the other. There were some stormwater questions that were answered in the stormwater book by Mr. Andrew Baum, and that's all I have to say on it, unless Mr. Andrew Baum has something more to say on engineering.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Becky or anybody on?
I'm sorry. We were going to request
that,
but I'll do that after.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I was just going to say to ask for the continuation.
You need to give me the date of the continuation, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Let's see. Jeff, can you see if there's anybody
Sure.
in the audience for this?
Yep. Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak regarding 6 Picker Road, notice of intent? 6 Picker Road, notice of intent. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak? Nope, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Just thank you again, Glenn Kowalski. If you, we will request that continuance, and we'll also follow up with paperwork on that request for continuance till 7/7, if that's when you're continuing this too.
Thank you very much. All in favor, Mr. Barnacle?
Stephen Barnacle in favor.
Stephen?
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Commission, very much.
We are now at 7:15. Wow, we're almost on time. 130 and 140 Fisk Hill Road, request for determination of applicability, continued from June 2020. Clueless Chief. Allsworth LLC, represented by Glenn Kravosky of EBT Environmental Consultants. How you doing, Glenn? Still there, huh? Glenn? Did he think he was done?
I think he thinks he was done.
I don't know.
Glenn Kravosky. Get out of that refrigerator.
Another time for you.
Yeah.
Glenn, you need to turn on your microphone.
She's still here?
Sending him a message here, see if I can get him.
Yeah.
Where is he?
He might
he
have
was
forgot that he had another one.
Yeah, he was listed as caller 11, I think, and he dropped off after the last one.
Yeah.
I just sent him a text. We'll see if he...
See if you can text him. Give him a minute. He's right there. Last meeting, he left it on.
That caller 13 came in. Yeah.
There he is.
Dear Commissioner.
Glenn, how you doing?
I was going through, I couldn't get online. I'm not sure what my problem was with the Commission. So I was going through Chris Bailey's phone to talk to you. So he thought that was the end of my work with you. So he just brought me back in. Sorry for not being there at the very beginning.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Oh, thank you.
We're
so
all
much.
working with this system. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you again. So, thank you again. Miss Rebecca Gendreau, sorry, Rebecca, you had gone out to possibly look at the 41 Copper Bank flag at the, we'll call permanent pond at Fisk Hill Road, in front of the 62-acre property. We then, we did put the 100-foot and the 200-foot zone surrounding the vernal pool. There had been some additional flooding by beaver earlier in the year. During the season, the applicant did remove the beavers, and I had explained that before. So we are talking to Mr. Doulis. We are proposing, we're hoping to have an agreement on that boundary line so that we can move forward with a notice of intent, which will encompass CRs, giving properties to the rear where we do know we have vernal pools. When I say to the rear, to the back of this pool, and then 2 ridges in, and possibly a majority of this property, as Rebecca has stated to you in the other meetings, is wetlands, ridge and wetland and ledge outcrop. Not that we're trying to give away junk. It's good wetland habitat, it's vernal pool habitat. Mr. Goulis is primarily concerned with just the frontage on Fisk Hill and a couple of frontages on the Gilpin. There is a large upland if you're on Fisk Hill looking into the site, the back left, which would be the southeast, but that's going to be worked out with the engineers. But we have an opportunity to do a DCR, a declaration of restriction, or a CR, or some form to preserve this habitat in the back. But that'll be coming forward with an NOI if we do get an agreement on the top of bank flags of the pool, or I'm not saying if, there's no threat there. If and when we get an agreement on that resource area line, then we can move forward to the NOI. That's
okay.
So So I have, on the screen here, I do have the plan. I did get that plan with the 200-foot top of bank line that we were talking about. So that did come in since I've provided my notes to the board. So I did. I went out last week. I did walk it. I found all the flags. I didn't have any concern with where he's showing the bank line there. It doesn't change. We do have an order of resource area delineation, which you can see there's the other line here, which is the BVW line, does not change that line. So we're not changing anything that was previously approved and is current under the order of resource area delineation. This is just a bank line associated with an area that could be potential vernal pool to kind of look at where that vernal pool habitat line is. So I don't have any concerns with the line. The RDA, I did ask that the first few pages were revised to reflect what he's currently asking for, which is approval of this top of bank delineation. I don't have any concerns with it. Like I said, I just received that plan, which we wanted to see that 200-foot line on. I think you're in a position that you can move forward and issue a determination on this. And that recommendation would be a 2A, which is confirming the boundary as shown, specifically bank only, for the purpose of that delineation and looking for vernal pool habitat under our bylaw regulations. That's all.
All right. Mr. Barnacle, any comment? Dave?
No questions.
No questions. Steve Halterman?
No questions.
Stephen Chidester?
No questions.
And Eric Gaspar?
No questions. Just seems like it took us a long time to get to this point, but yeah, no questions.
Ed Goodwin, no questions. And Eric, this is when we don't ask any questions. Do I have a motion from someone in the...
First of all, I'd like to make a motion, we close the public hearing.
All right.
You gotta check
Do
with
I
the
have a
public.
second?
Just ask and make sure we don't have.
Time out. I'm sorry, Jeff? Yeah, gonna check with the public.
All right.
Jeff, you're missing. Should you accept it?
Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak regarding 130 and 140 Fisk Hill Road project, request for determination? Is there anyone that would like to speak regarding the Fisk Hill Road request for determination? No one's on the phone.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, Eric Gaspar, second.
You're late. Yeah,
Discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Mr. Chidester?
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Mr. Gaspar?
in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Now, do I have a motion?
Yes. Make a motion that. Where are we at?
2A.
Hang on. Yes, 2A. Make a motion that we approve of the 13140 Fisk Hill Road request for determination under section 2A. The appropriate notes as amended by the conservation agent.
Do I have a second?
Steve Halterman, I will second that.
Discussion, anyone? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Steve Halterman in favor.
Stephen Chittister in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you very much, Glenn. Hey, Glenn, now you can go to the refrigerator without us giving you a hard time.
You guys never give me a hard time. Come on, please. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Take care.
Board.
Yeah. We are at 7:29. We have 1 minute.
Oh my God. That's the first meeting they've ever been on time that I've been.
so that you know, Raul, we have one more public hearing. Here, now your microphone's on.
All right.
Just so we have a minute, I just want to see, is there anyone from QQLA or representatives from QQLA here?
Yes, Carl Nielsen is online.
Okay, thanks, Carl. We'll just wait till after the public hearing. I think that's going to be pretty quick. I'll recommend that we move forward on that minor request amendment after this.
Excellent.
All right, we're going to go 27 Ladd Road, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1056, continued from June 2nd, 2020. R. Jennings, 508 International application. Ace Sulu, owner. O'Neill, representative. Replacement of decking on existing telephone pole bridge.
Mr. Chair, this is Stephen Minister.
Yep, you're recusing yourself?
I recuse myself. Yes.
Yep. That in the records.
We
Becky?
did receive a written request from Mr. O'Neill asking for a continuance. The flagging, as an update, the flagging on site was completed, and Summit Engineering was on site today to pick up the flagging, from my understanding, to generate that plan, and they plan to have that for us moving forward. Therefore, they're requesting continuance to the next meeting.
Okay.
Did I understand earlier you to say that there was a surveyor on site also, Becky?
Correct. Yep. So I did have some further correspondence today that the surveyors are in the field today, working on that.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept a continuance?
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the continuation.
Anyone in the
Any
public?
discussion?
We need a second.
Before we do, we haven't gone to the public on this, but all right. Jeff, we need to go to the public on this.
Okay. Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak regarding 27 Ladd Road, notice of intent? Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak regarding 27 Ladd Road, notice of intent? No one's on the phone, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barnacle, would you like to approve a continuance?
So move.
Mr. Haldeman?
I agree. Let's look for a second.
Yep. Stephen Chidester?
Abstain.
I'm sorry. Yep, you're recused. Eric Gaspar?
Yeah, Eric Gaspar, approved.
And Ed Goodwin, approved. You got that, Becky?
Right, that will, yep.
And
that will be continued to July 7th at 8:45. The 6 Picker Road notice of intent was continued to 8:30.
All right.
And just so that there's no confusion, could we make sure we understand for Holly who seconded that motion? We went a bit quickly, and I'm not sure that it actually got seconded.
Oh, I seconded it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. Good move.
Say it with confidence, David. Say it with confidence.
All right. Becky, you wanted to go to QQLA? Is that what you were saying?
Yes. Yeah, I think that would be a quick discussion. So this is a request for a minor amendment to an existing permit. This is Orders of Conditions, file number 300-734 for QQLA. This is the aquatic management of South Pond.
All right.
Hi, Carl.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hi. So This permit's been in place for quite a while. The reason we're asking for a change is back when we originally filed this permit request for weed control, there were only 6 herbicides available in the state of Massachusetts that were licensed and approved. And since that time, they've added 6 new ones, and 2 of them are actually significantly better herbicides to use. They have less, a much better toxic profile. They don't have a lot of side effects or fewer side effects than the ones that had been previously used, and they are systemic herbicides, which means they kill the plant and the roots as well, so you might actually be able to use them less frequently. So we're hoping that we can get these approved. Otherwise, everything else would stay the same on the permit.
Okay, now are you saying approved by us?
Well, just added or amended to be included as options for herbicide control of the weeds in the pond.
Have you chosen
two
which
herbicides? Sorry, I interrupted you.
You chosen which one you want to use?
Yes, we did. In our letter to the commission, we had indicated Clipper, which is an herbicide known as flumioxazin, and that's a systemic herbicide that can spot treat fanwort, which is an invasive species. And then the other one is Procelacor, which is a systemic herbicide that can be used for milfoil, and those are the 2 invasive species that have been troublesome and periodically coming back. In South Pond, we've really gone from 30 acres of weed down to about an acre or an acre and a half that crops up periodically, and we keep having to. In the past, we've been using an herbicide called diclot, which is only a contact herbicide, and it burns off the surface leaves, but it doesn't touch the roots. So obviously those roots keep coming back. These 2 tools will allow us to hopefully kill the roots and reduce our herbicide use going forward.
Which one are you going to use, the Procelacor or the other one?
Well, we're going to use both. Clipper is used for fanwort, and Procelacor is used for milfoil. Right now in Sturbridge, there is some fanwort on the in that most southern cove. So we would use the Clipper there. The Procelacor would be used up on the East Brookfield side near the Camp Day. Just offshore from Camp Day, there's a patch of milfoil that keeps coming back. So that it's being asked for in this permit because we could potentially use either herbicide in the Sturbridge end at some point.
Becky, what's the extension on the permit?
Well, this is a amendment request, but they actually do need, reviewing the file, they do need an extension request as well.
We had sent one in last year. I don't know. We got a reply back saying that we were good last April or May.
Okay, we'll have to look. I think there's 2 permits for this lake, so we'll have to look at the other one.
There are.
That might have been that might have been the other one. So I'll have to pull that other file out. But so right now we're just worrying about the amendment request.
Yep.
So we're not extending. We're just making an amendment to the treatment.
Correct.
Yeah,
I'll have to
that's
review
correct.
both files and see which one received the extension request. Quickly reviewing this one, I thought it was this one, but I'll have to check the other one as well, and we can add that on the next meeting agenda if we need to.
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a comment. Steve Halterman.
Go ahead.
What's the public aspect of this request for this amended permit? Is this it, the Concom meeting, or is there some other aspect of this for public input?
Well, no additional public input, but there is a DEP license to apply that has to be applied for annually by the herbicide applicator. So that's another check to make sure that the herbicides that are being used are consistent with the state regulations, and also the DEP checks to make sure that they have a valid order of conditions in place.
This hasn't already gone through the DEP herbicide program?
The 2 herbicides are approved already, but each year the herbicide applicator that comes out to the lake before they go needs to submit a plan to DEP saying these are the herbicides we propose to use at these locations. So that's been happening every year.
Yeah, I understand that process. I used to be on the other end of that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, I mean, so we're clearly calling this a minor change to this permit, total use of total different. That's why I'm concerned about public input. This is a total change of the herbicides, and you know, I'm okay with the DEP approval because it goes through some other approvals before it gets to the DEP. So I'm okay with that, but I'm just concerned about make sure that the public has had plenty of input, and it's not exactly a minor change, but I'm okay with it. It just could be an issue.
And these, we're not taking away any of the ones that we had already previously had approved. We're just adding these 2 to the mix.
I understand. Okay.
Okay.
Stephen Chidester.
Sure. I just said for at least 3 of the other lakes in town, we had approved of a complete change because of better science within the herbicide that's going to be applied. So I see that this one should be treated any different.
I agree this is a better product.
Steve Chidester.
I don't have no comments. This is Stephen Chidester.
Eric?
No additional comments.
Yeah, I don't have any comment.
The motion that we approve of the change as.
Oh, well, let's go to the audience since we, you know, to Steve's point. Could we check with the audience to see if there's anybody out there that?
Good evening. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak regarding the request to change in the herbicide for South Pond? Is there anyone that would like to speak about the herbicide in South Pond? Nope, no one's on the phone.
Thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the additional herbicide has been requested by LA.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
Herbicides plural.
I mean, I'm getting broken up here. David, could you repeat again, David?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve of the addition of 2 herbicides to the list that ULA has for their heat prevention eradication program.
Steve, would you like to second that?
Yeah, I'll second it. Steve Halter.
It's a minor change. Stephen Chidester?
I approve.
And Eric?
I approve.
And Ed Goodwin will abstain. Got that, Becky? We're all set. Carl, thank you.
Okay. Is there any paperwork that would be issued on that?
Yep, we'll send you a letter.
Excellent. That's all I need. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Take care.
You too, Skip.
Where to, Beck?
All right, we're going to go to Raul. We have the report from Oxbow Associates related to the Mass DOT Turnpike project, where we have an enforcement order that was issued. We've been working with them to make adjustments out there to the degraded and dilapidated drainage system. So just as a quick recap, we did have some short-term improvements which were reviewed and voted upon and implemented. And we also did receive a proposal for long-term improvements to move forward. There was a couple things that were outstanding, which we can talk about afterwards with that. And you did elect to choose to hire an outside consultant just to do a thorough overview of the drainage system in that area with what they've done, what they're proposing to do, and just if we missed anything out there. So that's what we're looking at tonight. This report was submitted by Oxbow Associates. I did provide it to you. He kind of goes over a lot of the different areas and has some nice figures in there. I can pull up the figures if you like. Raul has also been provided a copy of the report, and I think he has some comments he'd like to share with you. So I'm not sure if that's where you want to start.
Sounds like a good place. Hi, Raul. How you doing? I can't hear you. You're not on. Raul's mic is
There we go.
this one on. Need to turn the volume up. It says it's on, Raul, but we can't hear you.
I think we're losing Dave here too.
Now it's off. Now it's red. Can anybody hear him? I can't hear him.
No, I can't.
No.
Yeah, Raul, you might need to dial in on a telephone for us to get the audio.
All right, Becky, what else? Do you want to go on with this, or do you want to push to something else and come back when Raul comes back? Becky?
That's fine. We do have two other items for discussion on here too.
All right. What are they?
See, Mr. Kelleher has been on here for a little bit. 118 Lead Mine Lane.
Okay. Great. Mr. Kelleher, how you doing?
Yes, good evening all. I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Good, good. So...
I sent to Rebecca. Rebecca, I don't know if you're going to be able to show this, the preliminary...
Yep, I'm going to pull it up.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, so Gary sent a preliminary plan today. Let me just share my screen. So, yep, this plan did come in today. Gary, do you want to go over this plan?
As it says, it's preliminary, and I did tell Rebecca there are hard copies in the U.S. mail to the whole commission. I apologize if you haven't gotten them yet. This is what Mr. Hill, Norman Hill, has put together from land planning with our hope that you would allow us to proceed with this. It shows the relocation of the garage, the replication of approximately 385 square feet of wetland. Obviously, silt fence, bottles for the certain areas there. The garage, I might say as a footnote, was bought as a portable structure, so I can certainly move that. We have not, we obviously have to go through Board of Health for septic design and the plan. But my first step was, as you guys know, to get these preliminary site plan into you so we can see where we stand and what you feel we should do from now. I don't know if yes, you can see it in color. And that was the day a couple of you gentlemen and Rebecca came out to meet us on site. That was the alternative for a driveway location. However, that would be approximately a 3,000 square foot disturbance of forest. So that being said, I don't know if you people have any questions regarding that, but I'm just hoping that we can move forward with this site plan and take it as it may.
Becky?
Yeah, so the question is what Gary wants to do right now. Obviously, this extent of work would require an actual full application in front of us. So I think what Gary's looking for is the ability to go in and do the perk testing at this time. Is that correct, Gary?
I am. I know, Rebecca, you came down and met with my wife and have made some certainly some valid suggestions to her to move forward with some things. And I'd certainly like to go in there and do that. I've asked a couple of times if I could get the cease and desist lifted for that reason and just to get the perk test done so I can see if this is a viable spot for septic and a house. So that's actually what I'm hoping for at this stage of the game is a lifting of the cease and desist so I can only get up there to do the perk and obviously to make the improvements that you and I have and my wife have discussed, Becky.
Okay, so we've got kind of two things going on here. So I kind of break it up into two areas. This is one area where the crossing got put in to access the upland areas where they'd like to develop this lot. This lot was subdivided from his larger parcel in order to put in a small single-family house. So when we had gone out to take a look at it, Mr. Kelleher did say that he would like to kind of move forward to get some perk tests up there to see if they can put a septic system up there. And where we had kind of left it off at the last meeting after the site visit was to come back with a plan to look at what that area or that development area would be to look at, also to get the resource area delineated on a plan as well. So that's what he's brought forward for this area. One question I have, though, Gary, is the last time we had the site visit with the engineer, we talked about having a wetland scientist come out to actually do the delineation. Was someone available to go out and do that?
We'll have that done, Rebecca. I'm just trying to, go step by step with this to see where you want me to go from here. So this was obviously the first step, as we discussed at last meeting, was to get you a site plan. Obviously, we do have to get the scientist up there. Mr. Hill has it marked there. You've seen, certainly a couple of board members have seen what we're dealing with. So that is my next step.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that's important because, Mr. Hill is an engineer. However, he's not a wetland scientist, and there's some areas by the existing garage that kind of need to be looked at. So I just need to make sure that that's going to happen. So this is one area which I think we should talk about kind of separately. But the other area is there is an older open expired permit for the house development on the lake. And there's a couple of things to talk about down there. So I'm not sure how the commission wants to look at this. We can kind of separate these out. I think that just speaking for this one area that we're looking at here, that Mr. Kelleher to come back with that plan, I would like to see, like I said, the wetland scientist to actually do that delineation for us. I think that's important here. I think that the commission, if you decided, I think that, obviously there's a lot of thought and review that needs to go into reviewing the project, and there's some notes in the plan. I know this is the first time they've seen this. Meaning, from what I looked at it earlier today, you'd like to request to have a permanent wetland crossing there versus the alternative, which would avoid wetland impact. And we talked about that on site, and you need to weigh the pros and cons, obviously, and seeing it on the plan is helpful. I mean, there's no grading or anything with the alternative option, but that would have no wetland impact, which would be the preferred option for any project, is to avoid a wetland impact. So I think that's going to be important for the commission to take into consideration as you move forward. Right now, what I think you need to do, and even know if you can move forward for this lot, is to have a perk test. The impact's already there. You've put the crossing in. I think the commission can use their discretion to allow you to have the ability to get up and do that perk test and leave it at that if they so choose, with appropriate BMPs in place and a work plan to make sure there's no adverse impact to the resource area for now. So would you like to kind of keep these separate? I'm going to ask the board. Do you want to talk about this right now?
First question I have is, the backhoe that was parked there when I went out, does that belong to Mr. Kelleher?
That's mine. That's for my use. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are we going to? Are we looking at, you going up in there with the backhoe and digging around, or what?
Oh, no, it'd just be Norman Hill will be in charge of the perk test. I will dig the hole, but he will do the testing. I will dig the hole where he instructs me to dig the hole.
The Board of Health agent would be present for that, correct? You would do that under an application?
Right, correct.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with, with him getting a perk test on the land. That's if you want to divide it into categories. But then when they come back with a plan, that'll be something different.
Yeah, understood, sir. Thank you for that. I know that, but obviously, as I stated at the first meeting I attended, this to me was the first step to see if it's even a viable location. I obviously didn't want to go through a whole bunch of expense and go through everything and then find out that it wasn't possible to build a house. So that was why, with an exception, there are exceptions to accessibility for perks, as Becky has explained to me. Understand that doesn't mean I'm not sitting here saying I did it the right way, but that was my first step to get a perk to see if it's even a viable location.
Okay. Mr. Barnacle, what do you think?
How much vegetation, how many trees are going to be taken down in terms of getting a front end loader up there?
There's already There's already access to that the location on top of the hill, David. So we did take a couple of dead trees down, a couple of green trees down, but it was up on top of the hill where we hope to locate the house.
And the members of the commission that were on the site visit,
I think that was Eric and
Steve, you're on mute.
Eric and Ed. I think Ed, you were up there, right? Yeah, and Rebecca and myself and my son.
Yeah, David, I don't expect there to be much additional disturbance to do the perk test. There's plenty of disturbance that was there, but nothing additional, I think, would occur.
I agree with that.
Steve Chidester?
Yeah, so my opinion is that I'm willing to allow him to do the perk testing, but I also have some serious concerns about any kind of permanent crossing when there is an alternative. And I'd like to see, some restoration of the buffer zones. So anyway, that's a different discussion.
I'm having a hard time getting online. We have them on.
Steve Haldeman?
Yeah, there is a lot of clearing that's already taken place. To answer your question, Dave, there's a lot of clearing and disturbed soil, and I can't remember if any of that is in the buffer zone or not. But we definitely, this plan is not what we asked for because there's not the wetland scientist input.
Yeah.
But I would say that we should divide this, allow them to go ahead and use that crossing that they already put in, and go up and do the perk testing, and then submit the team that we've asked for. And also, there's two things going on, as you recall from the last meeting that I just watched today. I probably shouldn't admit that I waited till the last minute. But down by the house on the lake, there was a very large paved parking lot put in that we need to take a very hard look at right on the lake, and an area across the street from the house that still has been pushed into a wetland. We heard some discussion about the town using that for turning around snow removal equipment or something or another. We need to look at that. So I would say that clearly there's two different areas, up here on the hill and where they want to build a house, and down by the house. But I would say that we could just look at all of that the next time we meet, and that's my recommendation. So that means a wetland delineation, because Steve, I think he was right on that. There's a lot of restoration that needs to be done here.
Well, yeah, with that type of a summary, Steve, the one thing we asked for was a wetland delineation, and we haven't gotten it.
I know, I've listened to
So
that.
you're asking for
I was
about
there.
5 things, 5 solutions
am.
at the next meeting.
Nothing that Becky hasn't already asked for this. We were heard Becky give these people their directions of what to bring here, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. Jeff, we're getting a lot of
I know.
feedback.
I think someone's got a mic open somewhere, and I keep looking to see who's doing it. I'll keep an eye on it. If I can turn it off, I will.
Not me.
Yep. Steve, go ahead. Anything else?
No, I'm just pretty much voicing what I heard at the site meeting and what Becky restated at the last meeting last week, 2 weeks ago.
But
Eric,
we've had 3 meetings in a row when we've been promised something and it hasn't happened yet.
Well, let's give them a date.
That's 6 or 8
And let's
weeks.
give them a brutal warning of what happens if we don't get it on the date that we asked for. Because we're always having legally to tell you, Mr. Keller, if you don't comply, then we could fine you. So there, it's been said.
Eric, I didn't hear from you. Did you have anything?
Well, no, I mean, obviously there was considerable disturbance before this went on. In my personal opinion, I'm okay with them getting up and getting the perk, which is his primary concern. But, you know, I don't think any of, we're going to allow this to go away, even if they do find out that it's not a viable location for them to work on. So, I mean, I agree with Steve and with David that we need to get the wetland delineation and we need to set a timeline, but I do also feel like we should be able to allow him to get up there and do his perk and at least get that figured out. So,
right.
Just my opinion.
I gotta try to get online, and I'm not having it.
I think it's Bill's.
Caller 16 is the one that needs to be muted, by the way.
Who? Kelleher?
Caller 16 keeps showing up as giving the feedback, I think.
All right, go ahead.
Well, we got 2 things for the next meeting, it sounds like. I'd like to hear a proposal that said that we would have wetland delineation for the property at our next meeting, and we could give them approval to go forward and have a perk.
We already have that. We don't have the one about the approval to go ahead with the perk, but we've already asked for the wetland delineation 3 times.
Wait a minute now. I don't have a wetland delineation. By a wetland scientist, I do not have a wetland delineation.
We have the request.
No. Yeah, the request is out, but we don't have it.
So why would we make another request?
Well, going back to what Steve Halderman said is that if we don't get it at the next meeting, then we'll start fining. Isn't that what you said, Steve?
Yes, sir. I suggest, you know,
Steve, we're losing your audio.
I'm having a terrible time. Dave?
Do me to comment. I suggest
Steve. Steve,
excuse me, Ed or Rebecca, can you hear me okay? I'm not hearing Mr. Halterman at all, but I think if you could hear me, what I understood Steve to say was that he certainly can put a date on that and he will be able to fine if I didn't meet that date. So I don't want to mess it up. I want to do what you guys want, obviously. And I think I also heard that I think you were going to allow me to go in and do the perk and then still give me a date to have the wetland delineation done. Now, I guess I'll accept responsibility. I thought from Rebecca when we talked that what you wanted tonight was a preliminary site plan, and that's what, and it did take a while to get it, but I got it. I'm not going to make excuses for an engineer. I'm more than willing to I know I have to get a wetland scientist up there, and I'm going to do that. But I felt that this is where we had to start with the preliminary site plan just to get your thoughts and feelings on that. I know a scientist has to get up. I'll do that. So, Steve, I apologize. You're all broken up when you're talking. I hear what you're saying, and I certainly want to abide by that.
Okay,
Becky,
I'm
you
sorry
hear
that I got broken up. I think I'm good on my end. I've got my phone and I'm unplugged off of the computer. You are reminding us. Can you hear me okay?
You were really broken up, Steve. I don't know if anybody
You're
else.
breaking up, Steve.
I can't. I really. I can never hear a word.
I don't know why I'm being broken, because I'm on mute and I'm talking on my phone.
Well, get the phone up closer to your mouth.
Steve, just...
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. That's better.
Becky, can you turn off your screen, please?
I do not understand.
Can I just make a recommendation before I have to turn off my screen here? I think you should discuss if you want to allow him at this moment to move forward with the perk test instead of time frame. I guess just to clarify, Gary, as part of the preliminary plan to send in, that would have included the wetland delineation. So that's sorry if you misinterpreted that, but that's what we were trying to get across, was that the scientists would go out and get an idea of resource area out there to be included on the plan. So I guess my recommendation would be that you could allow him to get up there and do that perk test with some conditions at this time. And then moving forward for the next meeting, which is July 7th, which would give him 3 weeks, is to come back with that delineation from a wetland scientist for both this upper section and to have him look at the lower section like we talked about in the field. The lower section, which is the house, which is the older permit, which is expired, it doesn't seem like that, based off a review of that, is in compliance. And I had gone out and I met with Gary's wife, as he had indicated, because there was restoration mitigation that was required. A lot of plantings along the stream down there, and then also for like across the street where they went through for the septic line there. So I did take a look at that, and you know, some things have grown back in, but I think that it's important that someone goes through for the property owner, goes through the permit, figures out where it is with the compliance. We do need to work to close out that permit. The addition, there's some additions down there, including the paved parking area that needs to be looked at, and then we'll need an as-built for that work, since it's not consistent with the plan that was approved. So I think that we can come back for the next meeting with the delineation for both areas and have someone on his behalf figure out where he is in compliance with his expired permit, what's new that wasn't on the plan, look at the mitigation areas and make a recommendation. I really do think that some areas have grown back in, but at the stream culvert, there's a lot of erosion occurring there. That was one of the areas that was supposed to be mitigated for, that it doesn't appear that happened. And it looks like there's a lot of water that's coming down the road that washes out that section. And maybe there's some good improvements that can be made there that will benefit the resource area and help with that erosion. And some of that erosion, I don't know if coming down the road, it kind of seems with the grading of the road and maybe the installation of the paved driveway, that's kind of helping funnel towards the resource area. So I think if he can come back for the next meeting and kind of have someone assist with addressing all of that, so we can make sure that the permit's in compliance, we can get that closed out, and any potential mitigation that was required, there can be a plan for addressing that moving forward.
Rebecca, will you have that all spelled out for me, what you just said?
I did, actually. Yeah, so that email that I sent you, Gary, a few weeks ago after the meeting, kind of went through a lot of that, and I put the attachments on there for your permit, the mitigation plan, the site plan, and I'm happy to go through that with either your engineer and wetland scientist to help assist you with that compliance. But I think I spelled a lot of that out in that email. I can go back through it and see if there's anything else. That obviously that was before I looked at the site and the issues with the the road kind of wash out and erosion down there. But happy to speak with anyone and meet them out there as well too.
Okay, so you and I can certainly talk offline about all these, the other items. That's correct? Okay, very good.
Well, pretty much what we just mentioned is what we need for the next meeting. So it's, you and Rebecca can speak offline about it, but if we don't get it at the next meeting, we're going to start to fine. That would be my position on it at this point, because it's been several meetings, and it's a simple thing to get a wetland delineation. And in this case, she's added some recommendations for mediation. Does anybody disagree with me on that? David?
I'd actually like to make a motion that we agree that we should have a wetland scientist review prior to any digging for septic approval.
I don't know. I agree with that.
Do I have a second?
But
I'll second that motion.
Okay, now we can discuss it.
Now we can discuss it.
So are you saying, Dave, that means I cannot go in and do a perk?
No, excuse me. Now the commission has to discuss
Oh, I'm
it.
sorry. Okay, I thought it was open. Sorry.
Eric?
Yeah. I mean, I would be a no vote on that motion. I disagree. I don't see the additional harm in getting up there, getting the perk done. We have the mechanism at our disposal if at the next meeting he does not comply with what we are directing. So I don't see any additional benefit to string this out any longer and allow him to do the perk. That I realize the frustration of not getting what has been asked, but there has been some progress. And at the end of the day, all it seems to me is we're being slightly vindictive by not allowing him to get up and get the perk. But that's just one man's opinion.
Stephen? Steve, you're not on. Mike's not on.
Sorry. What we requested, I thought was clear. It was put in writing. It was sent in an email. I can see the value of, obviously, they want to get this perk test done, but we want to get the wetland scientist's input. So I'm just, I can understand the at this point saying, you can get what you want if we get what we want, kind of thing. So that's my comment.
Steve Haldeman, did you speak on it?
Yeah, I did, and I was pretty clear. I thought that they should they've already got the crossing. I think they should just go up there and do their perk test. But we have I've suggested a timeline, and I think everybody's going along with that, because it's really a separate issue. And, the wetlands delineation is to really understand what damage has been done. Discussion of mitigation of that whole wetland, or restoration of that wetland, I think is dependent upon whether or not we're going to allow that crossing. And I think
you want to call that a temporary crossing, right?
It definitely is a temporary, in my opinion, a very temporary crossing. Because when we discuss the whole project, I'm going to suggest they totally restore that wetland and use the upland crossing, or upland approach to the driveway. But I am a little confused. We're talking about a permit, which was for the lower part, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Becky?
Correct.
For the house. What
right.
you're saying
is
there are violations with regard to the existing house.
Yes, exactly. And it's not clear when if David's motion was just for that area down there when you're talking about mitigation and so on, because it needs to be done, and I'm assuming that that's what you're talking about. So we've really got like three things going on here.
Right.
So I was trying to just make it clear to separate out, do the perk. He asked for that in the first place. Do the perk, but put on notice that we need wetlands delineation on a plan, and he's already got the second or an alternative driveway, and depending on the decision. Pardon?
He doesn't have an alternative. He's got an area filled.
No, he's got an alternative driveway in red lines
right.
going up to the house. So he's got that. We asked for that. What we don't have is the wetlands delineation. We don't need a wetlands delineation.
Yeah.
The perk.
All right, we're going to have to, close this down here.
I know.
Would somebody like to make a motion and we'll try and go with it?
I think Dave
Barnacle.
I thought there was one on the floor.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. Could you review it for me? Was it the one for just the perk?
Yes.
Or the perk? What?
It was for not approving of the perk test until we had the wetlands delineation completed.
Okay, you had a second on that.
Yeah, I seconded it.
All right, let's put that to a vote. Mr. Barnacle?
Obviously, David Barnacle in favor.
Okay. Steve Halterman?
No. Steve Halterman, no.
No. Stephen Chidester?
In favor.
And Eric Gaspar?
Opposed.
Opposed. And Ed Goodwin in favor. So the next thing we want to see is we want to see delineation of the property. Okay, Becky?
Okay.
And that's
Jerry?
by the next meeting?
By the next meeting, yep.
Excellent.
All right. What next, Beck?
We'll go back to Raul.
Raul?
Can you guys hear me now or no?
I can hear you beautifully.
Hey.
Good. I was on the computer audio. I don't know why that didn't work, but dialed in now, so hopefully you hear me clearly.
All right, Becky, you guys want to go ahead, Raul? You're the man.
So, we're here to talk about the Oxbow Associate Report. I just wanted to ask Becky a couple of quick questions before, just so we set the stage. Becky, any further word on the final awarding of the contract from MassDOT for the resurfacing project, or nothing yet?
No, I haven't received word from them.
It was tentatively due the end of June, so yeah.
Yep.
So we got to just please keep on them for that. And then any results from the meeting on the site visit on June 4th? Did you and Steve come to any closure after I left that site visit with MassDOT?
So I forget, when exactly did you leave? Were we in the basins at that time, Raul?
Yeah, we went in the basins and in the retention ponds. They were digging and checking the depth of the bad fill. So.
Right.
Yeah. So the commission knows what Raul is talking about. So we had a site visit with Mass DOT. Raul, myself, and Steve Halterman went out. We met Bill Clougherty out there. We met Peter Reed, and we met a woman who was one of their wetland specialists out there. We did review some of the outstanding items, which didn't get included in the last proposal from Mass DOT for the long-term improvement project. So that was the purpose of that site visit. So we did the areas that were left open and which were discussed at the last meeting when you did approve the long-term plan. We're looking at impacts to the stream just north of the turnpike, removal of sediment in the 2 detention basins also north of the turnpike, and then also looking at the small pond that's a potential vernal pool to see if any further sediment needs to be removed out of there. So we first, when Raul was there, we looked at the stream, and then we went into the sediment basins just to kind of, they were digging around a little bit to see how much kind of non-native material was in there. Those basins have been there for quite some time. So they did do some digging in there, you know, try to determine native versus kind of non-native. Well, maybe I shouldn't term it that way because it's not native because it's a basin, but it's been there for quite some time. And then after that, we did move over to the other side, and we had left. They were still kind of looking around and doing a little digging to look at how much sediment might have washed down from the road and the failed structures. So then, where we left with Raul, they were kind of still exploring and thinking about the options of maybe having a survey team come out and kind of look at, well, as is, once they repair the pipes, would they be able to, what kind of infiltration would they get in the basin if they didn't remove the sediment, if there were concerns with that, and then also, you know, obviously looking at if it just kind of made sense to go out there and clear that material out to the areas where, you know, once they were digging down a little bit, we did find some, you know, stone that seemed to be the top surface of the basin there. So they were going to kind of look at those options and come back with a plan at that. So nothing was determined for that area at the site visit.
Okay. Thank you, Becky. The reason I wanted Becky to explain that is that I can give you my opinion on the report from the Oxbow Associates now. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to review it. But what was clear, first of all, I thank you guys for agreeing to move forward with that report, and Jeff for having the town absorb the cost of that report. I think it was very beneficial. What it gave me, and what they were able to articulate fairly well, was what has already been done by MassDOT that would meet up to the conservation guidelines for today, what is proposed during the resurfacing project, and what, in his opinion, still needs to be done over and above that, that was not either part of the short term or the work that's due to be due hopefully this fall. So I think, and Becky's feedback and that site visit from MassDOT clearly leaves a lot of gray areas that they plan to address, or they're not sure if they're going to address, or they're going to evaluate whether they're going to address or not. So although I'm comfortable and I'm happy on behalf of the association that we've gotten the short term done and we got a plan that we've all approved as part of MassDOT's resurfacing project, I believe there is a logical third phase of this project that we need to keep the pressure on MassDOT to bring this area fully up to today's standards, which is what the enforcement order called for. So I think right now, what I would recommend to the Conservation Commission is that we certainly keep the pressure on MassDOT to live up to their contract that they are going out to bid on, and hopefully we'll do this fall to get the next wave of repairs done. I would ask that you guys consider a second and follow-up report by the Oxbow Associates once they have completed that work to see what, in their opinion, still needs to be done to bring this area up to full standards. And then put the pressure on MassDOT to either go after and do those final repairs or decide to back off and leave it as is. I think from the association's perspective, we wanted right along a thorough replacement of this 50-year-old infrastructure. And we've gotten some good progress here, but I just don't want to stop short of the goal line and then have you guys rediscussing this in another 4 or 5 years when another area fails, which it will do. But I want to keep the positive inertia moving forward with this work and then reassess where it's at. So that would be my recommendation. I would also not give them a clear bill of health on the enforcement order until that second report is done by Oxbow and you guys feel comfortable that they've done everything in their power to make that up to today's standards. So that's kind of where we stand as an association and how I feel about it right now. I'm happy that we got phase 1 and the early repairs done, and I'm happy we got the second wave going. But there clearly is areas spelled out in that report that are not addressed that he feels as an independent consultant should be addressed. Any feedback from you guys and your review of that report?
Becky, you want to start, or you? Hello?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here.
Yep.
I agree with Raul. I think that Oxbow did a good job and pointed out some areas that are of concern. Some of the things that we've already mentioned that we've noticed out there. He did point out a couple other areas where some minor work can occur too. I do think it's advisable to have a follow-up done. I did mention that at one of the meetings before when you voted to move forward with this. I do think that, just so you know, Mass DOT is planning attending our next meeting to go over the findings of that site visit, and I think we can discuss this report. I think that Mass DOT's consultant should do some monitoring reports, and that could be a requirement with, you can, obviously we can have our consultant go out and do a thorough review of that and review of their monitoring reports. But I do think that kind of should be a MassDOT. But I think that it's always advisable to have a third party separate from, a proponent to go out and look at things with a separate set of eyes too. So I think it's definitely necessary. But I think that MassDOT's consultant should do some of that monitoring initially.
Becky, with all due respect, MassDOT has not done their own monitor reporting to date at all. They've never, even when we've asked them to do it, we've never gotten here's a status. We only get a status when we call them and ask for one. So I have very little trust that I'm going to get a status report from MassDOT. So I think we need to take an affirmative action to make sure that they follow through on everything that needs to be done. Otherwise, they'll cut the corners, which they've done right along if it wasn't the pressure from you guys and the pressure from the association. So it's just the way of life and the way it is with these guys, from my opinion.
Mr. Barnacle?
I'd just like to ask one question about the report. I was wondering if the three of you who were on site were surprised at the part of the report that indicated that the materials coming out of the concrete pipe were the responsibility of the town to clean up.
Which, Becky, do you want to answer that? I'm not sure. Yeah.
Can you say that again, Dave?
Beg your pardon?
Can you say that again? We're not cleaning anything. We would just be having someone go out and confirm that they've completed everything.
No, you missed my intent. There is a section of the report that talks about a plume that exists in the water as a result of a concrete pipe that emanates from one of the slopes. And the results that were indicated by the environmental group that was working for Mass DOT indicated that would be the town's responsibility for cleanup. It would not be part of the DOT requirement because it was a town-owned pipe. I can go back and re-reference that tomorrow and send it to you, Beck.
Okay.
It might be referencing the pipe. It might be referencing the pipe, Dave, coming out of Hamilton Pond and spilling into that open area. It's a big corrugated pipe that is the spillover from Hamilton Pond into the feed into Cedar Lake. But I'm not sure. I'd like to see that specific section as well, so I can look at it.
I had the impression, Raul, that it was on the opposite side of the hill.
That it was opposite side.
Oh, we can check it out.
Cedar Pond.
Yeah. So you'll send David. You'll send it to Becky
and Raul. Yeah.
Raul. Yeah. Okay. Great.
We'll take a look at it.
Take a look at it. Yeah. Stephen, you have anything?
He's playing out right now.
But yeah. Steve?
Sorry. I agree with the follow-up consulting.
Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, nothing additional.
Yeah, no, I agree with Raul's overall mentality as far as treatment of MassDOT. If we don't push for it and we don't tell them we're looking for it and we don't go back and ask them for it, we won't get it. I think that's the way to handle it. Yeah. So.
Ed, even to your point, the next real milestone for them, which they promised us at the meeting that we all attended, or many of us attended back in December, was they expected the bid to be awarded by the end of June for this resurfacing project. Now, I'll give them a break because of COVID and delays and all of that stuff, but when we talked to Bill Flaherty, he said, no, the bid process has been on schedule. The bid's been out, and there's a tentative low bidder on it right now.
Oh, wow.
So if I don't hear from MassDOT by the end of June, I've already got the email crafted that's going to go to MassDOT and also to Ann Goby and to our state representative to say, you know, you're missing the deadline again, because I can't not let the pressure be on them to hold up to their accountability for this project. And I'm asking you guys not to. They've asked a couple times, if we do this work, are you going to let the enforcement order expire? I would not let that enforcement order expire until you guys are 110% sure that they've done everything they can in their power and that you've satisfied the request of the Lake Association as your customers to do that.
As our customers, yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll make that decision together, I assure you of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right.
Now, Ed,
yes.
I have a comment. This is Steve Alterman. I agree with a lot of what things that people have said. A couple of things that are kind of that were left open, and Raul and Becky, you'll remember. Now they're going to come into those, speaking of those detention ponds, a series of ponds, the big corrugated pipe totally rusted away, and they're going to go in and they're going to replace those already, and that's in the plan. And David, you would have appreciated the fact that there's not been any maintenance of those detention ponds, and that's why there's vegetation as high as my head, well, maybe not, and a foot of soil that's built up in there, and with the original bottom of the detention pond being stone. So the way it was discussed was, well, when they come in to evaluate how they're going to replace those big rusted pipes that goes from one pond to the next lower one, well, then they'll look at the sediment and decide what they're going to do. It'd be good if we had a recommendation. Since there's never been any, or at least in the last 10 years, there's been no maintenance, then we should request that those things be cleaned out and maintained. So, and we sort of let it be left that, well, they're going to come and look at it, evaluate it, and we need to pressure them on that, I believe. I had another one. Oh yeah, then the stream that goes from the outlet of the gun club pond there into Cedar Pond under the highway. There was a big discussion. There's undercutting taking place, and nobody had a real suggestion of where we were going to go with that. how is that left? I'm recollecting that nobody had a real final answer. There was just several discussions thrown out. Raul, do you think that's in the list of things that has to be addressed?
It's not in their list of addressable things at this point. And I know there's been some discussion in some of the previous meetings that, you know, that pipe coming out, the undercutting is really not their responsibility, might be the town's responsibility. My point is, if you're going to be doing a lot of work to clean up those retention ponds between the town and MassDOT, figure out what you should do about that pipe coming in and the undercutting, and whether it's the town's responsibility or theirs, or you come to a compromise in between. Don't leave it hanging. Let's get the area correct in long haul. I don't know. I have no idea if it's MassDOT's responsibility or yours. I just know, like you saw, that it's undercutting. There's a lot of silt and sediment there. Some of that may be spilling over from the sand coming over from Hamilton Rod and Gun Club that we had some problems with, and Becky had to stop. I don't know, but if you're going to clean that area up, and MassDOT's going to do significant work there, anything that the town would have responsibility on, you may want to take a look at it at the same time. For example, on that Hamilton Road side, there are two swales that drive into those retention ponds. One from the pike and one from Hamilton Road itself. Both of them are a mess, okay? They're both a mess. They're both old. I will bet you that the one on the Hamilton Road side is DPW, Town of Sturbridge responsibility. I know Becky's already talked to Butch about taking a look at it, and maybe he can make those repairs.
Well, he was out there when we went to site visit.
Right. So, but let's get a coordinated front and make sure that we hold up our end of things that need to be tightened up at the same time. Is my suggestion to everybody. We've put so much time and effort into this project. It's been going on 3 years now, and it'll be 4. Let's make sure we all dot the I's and cross the T's and get a good solid infrastructure around it. Okay.
You know, one of the ways that we could get some of that done, Raul, is if Becky, I think we have somewhere the 1950s plan from DOT relative to that pipe that goes between the Rod and Gun Club and Cedar Pond. I will bet you on that document there are the inverts from the original placement of that pipe. And one of the things we can ask for as part of the Conservation Commission is that the inverts be matched. Use the same invert now as you had originally. And what that'll do is cause them to actually have to do a complete and total clean out even after they remove the galvanized pipe. Because they can't get down to the original invert without cleaning everything out of it. And think about it, that's 70 years worth of material that has had a chance to build up in there. And they're not going to be able to send a probe down and figure out what the invert is. They need to have a correct invert in order for that to continue supplying water to Cedar Lake.
Right. So Dave, what's clear though is that I don't think MassDOT's going to do any of that work when they do the drainage and the resurfacing project this fall if that project goes forward. That's why I believe that there's a third and final phase of this that we have to, lobby for, push for MassDOT to own up to their end of things, and potentially some work to be done on town responsibility as well, to get it all buttoned down. I said this when we left the meeting in Shrewsbury. We were happy because they moved it up a year, the work they were going to do, and we compromised to at least get something done toward the long-term plan. But if you remember, we argued pretty heavily about, why aren't you doing the rest of those swales, and why aren't you making those all correct, and why are you still keeping those concrete swales in between? And basically it was take it as is right now because you got a chance to do this, or wait another 3 to 5 years until we approve the whole project. So we all agreed to move forward, and we should be behind that 110%. And Becky needs to keep finagling them to make sure she gets as much done as she possibly can during this project. But there's more to be done afterwards, and we should just acknowledge it now and be prepared to deal with it going forward is my recommendation.
I agree. Anything further? Becky? It's all on you.
Oh, I know. So they are coming back to the next meeting, and part of that will be what they observed within the stream and any recommendations. We talked about the removal of the sediment piles. They talked about potential, stream bank restoration possibility. But there's a lot going on there, and some of that might be because of the culvert underneath the road too. So we might need to have, some efforts with the town to make some improvements there too. And I think that we'll have to see what they come back with next week or next meeting. In addition, just to follow up, Raul, DPW, I did work with them. They did make some improvements along the road. It's going to be kind of a phased approach over there. So they did take out, that was a paved swale that was coming down. They did put in multiple check dams along there to help kind of slow down the water with what they had for materials this year, with the intent that next year is kind of maybe being able to complete that and remove that paved swale there, though. So we were able to get that accomplished this spring.
Excellent. Thank you, Becky.
No problem. And I will ask them for the next meeting. I will reach out to Mass DOT and remind them and ask them about the bid. In addition to making sure we get that report in a timely fashion before the meeting for you too.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Ed, just one last question. Do you plan to discuss this Oxbow Associate report and with MassDOT that you guys had hired an independent consultant to do that? Or is that in your back pocket?
I don't think it's in our back pocket. I think we put. Yeah. I think we plan to discuss it.
I did tell them that we.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's fine to tell them. Keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Good luck, Raul.
Yeah. You want to get the audience, if there's anybody that wants to talk about this issue, Jeff?
Sure.
Please.
Hello, is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak about the Cedar Lake improvements with Mass DOT? Is there anyone on the phone that would like to speak about the Mass DOT Cedar Lake improvements? There's no one on the phone.
Thank you. All right, Becky, where are we headed?
Thanks, guys.
We're almost done, huh?
Welcome by Raul. Yep, last item, I believe, unless I missed something, DP file number 300-1021, 30 River Road. We have the enforcement order. I believe we do have the property owner and project team on to give an update on where they're at with the stormwater improvements and site work out there. And then also I did provide you with proposals for the wetland assessment that was part of the enforcement order.
Okay, yeah. Is Corey on, too? Also?
Corey's here.
Yeah. So is the listing... Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to... I'll share my screen in a minute when I pull that up. So we did get... Corey did provide today... I forwarded that email. I don't know if you see it. I will pull it up so we can go over it. Corey did provide a draft plan for the stormwater improvements and a narrative to go along with that. So I think we could start there and go through that. You did ask at the last meeting for a plan. Corey is on the line to discuss that. So let me find that and pull it up for you.
She's looking for that. This operation, this was provided to 2 o'clock at noon on 3 hours of when the thing was coming.
Dave, can you get closer to your phone? I'm having trouble hearing David Barnacle.
I cannot hear David Barnacle.
You hear it now?
So I have the narrative up here,
Yep.
and I can put the plans up too. So I don't know if how you want, if you want him to kind of read the narrative as you look at the plan, if that's easier for you, or if you want to read the narrative first. If you haven't had a chance to see it, please let me know.
Corey, why don't you go through it quickly? Yeah, don't read it, but go through it point by point.
I'll summarize it. Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Corey Broder, Leonard Engineering. I'll walk you through just kind of what I tried to color the plan to kind of best illustrate what's going on right now. The kind of violet blue color would be proposed, and the reddish rust color would be more of what was already installed. So basically, there've been about 10 drop inlets that have been installed along the roadways in an effort to reduce the erosion and sediment washout on gravel roadways, and so those are scattered throughout the site. But I can go over each one in the areas of the basins that have been installed. And Becky had some concerns and questions about particular areas. So item 2, there were three drop-ins installed in the around site 829 and 919, which is on sheet 2, Becky.
Okay, I'll go to sheet 2 then.
Yep, and these areas actually discharge to a storm scepter, which is called outlet 6 now. And so Becky was concerned about just trying to see the amount of flow that was going into this, and with the changes by the installation of drop inlets. There was no model done when the notice of intent was submitted, but it appears based on just the site grading that the changes, it's approximately the same amount of volume of runoff. It's just getting there differently. So it's being piped to this storm scepter treatment unit in a different manner, piped, and reducing the sediment runoff in the roadways. So that's that area. I don't know if you look at site 829, 919, those are the basins that were installed. So that's on the far end of the pond.
So Corey, can you see my screen? Are you on here, or are you just on the phone?
I am, yeah. So that would be, so that's basically it's on the bottom right corner. If you see, it says riprap outlet number 6.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, and this is where yep. So these are the 2 new where it was piped down.
Yeah.
Here, there's a catch basin here, and then it flows to the permitted outlet here.
Right. So that's that one. Then if you stay on this page, number 3, there was that little sediment basin that was installed near between sites 909 and 910. That's the little basin that was in the restoration area at the bottom of the screen. So that basin, there was concern about the basin not draining out between storms, and so a sub drain was installed right at the basin floor, right where it was before, with a stone forebay on top of it. So now it seems to drain out between storms. So we can go back to page 1. There's one of the bigger changes that's being going to be worked on soon is that hillside basin that was talked about, which is the area right below. It's called Concord Boulevard, the 400 section. So what we did is we drafted a basin that's about 100 feet by 16 feet at the bottom. That's going to receive flow from both the swale between sites 402 and 403, as well as down the side road sites 413, 530, 531. There was a new stone swale that was installed there. Right now, it discharges to a temporary sump if you've driven in the area. So the runoff, the road is crowned and it drains into this little basin right now. But eventually, it's going to be piped with another inlet into the hillside basin. So the idea for this basin is to reduce the load on a storm scepter that is installed down upstream of outlet 1, which was one of the main concerns, I believe, in this area that had a lot of turbid discharge. So this basin, they'll have some infiltration in detention to reduce the flow there, diverting it, and eventually it gets down into the same watershed. But and we are working on the outlet area down there. We had drafted a detention basin to best fit the area to kind of maximize the area down by site 202 and 203. And that is kind of in the works. We're kind of going back and forth between that or some type of water quality swale with the 4-bay outlet, maybe with an attempt to try to save some of the trees in that area. The current configuration would remove, I believe it's 9 trees, to maximize the amount of stormwater treatment that we have there in the area. Just a second, Jim Pioppi and Phil Moreau are trying to connect. They just sent me a message just so you know. I don't know. They just told me to let you know.
Okay.
Let's see. So, go to item. So there's a few other basins that were really only one other one that was installed. Besides, there was I guess we got to go back to sheet 5, sheet 1, sheet 2. So up there exactly up by the isolated land subject to flooding, there was the drop inlet installed behind one of the the sewer pump stations. So there's a little sediment basin that was installed over there for additional sediment removal. And I mean, that's the summary of the basins and drop inlets. Becky had also requested update a operation and maintenance plan, which I'll work on either the end of this week, next week, and I can get a draft to you. And then you can review it and we can finalize it once everything's installed. Regarding the as-built drawing, the owner has a surveyor that's been doing layout for the park, so he's going to be doing the actual survey locations of it. I'll be assisted with the contractor's red lines and my help as well to get that done. I think the only other change, which Mr. Moreau asked if I could add a recreation area to. If you see, that's the green area on sheet 1. There's right below the hillside basin. So that area includes pickleball courts. There was one pickleball court that was to be installed right next to the conference center on the same page. Now he wants to relocate it to the north, and it's now 120 by 30 feet, whereas before it was 50 by 30.
Corey, is he proposing something else where the original pickle court is located?
As far as I know, I don't know. Phil, are you on the line? My understanding from conversations this afternoon with him is it was being relocated, not there was nothing going to go in that place. So it's being relocated. I tried to hold it outside of the 200-foot area. There's a little bit of grading associated with it because it is located in a hill. But it is a larger area, but that other area is being removed within the resource area buffer.
And that area is already currently open, correct? I think that area's all been kind of worked in as part of the project.
Yes, that's correct.
The trees have already been cut down.
That is correct.
Okay.
What's the plan for
That's
that?
all I have for my area. Yeah.
What's the plan for, there's no replanting or anything for the old area? Are they gonna?
I mean, I'm sure he'd be amenable to it. I know there's a lot of planting that needs to be done, so.
Cut down some pretty big trees.
Becky, you got?
Yeah, and then obviously I've been involved, and I was back out there last week with Jim Piappi and Corey, and we kind of went through the site and relooked at a lot of these things. I think that all of these things are going to be good improvements over what's been going on out there, and the current direct discharges. Pulling those direct discharges back and adding some of these basins in to assist with some infiltration is going to be a good long-term improvement. Looking at this sheet, the basin down here, this blue, we had a lot of discussion about that. I mean, it is close to the stream, but this existing blue line here was existing on the site, was an existing discharge, and once that one got put online, that had a lot of impact too. So I do think that overall, adding that basin there and losing a few of those mature pines in there, I think having this improvement to stormwater will be a benefit in the future, which is worthy of losing a few of those trees. You can have some replacements there if you want, and we also there is a good tree line along the stream there, so that there could be some advantages to doing some additional plantings there. But I think that's a good improvement. That I think that Corey's put a lot of effort into it and still kind of thinking it out a little bit. But I think I'd like to see that happen there, just to make sure we can kind of get rid of that direct discharge, which was such an issue. The hillside basin up here. There was a lot of water coming down, which was getting in, like you said. There's a storm scepter here with that first outlet. That was a big issue. So by adding this, we're going to reduce the volume going down there, which will be a good improvement. There's this stone swale that's picking up a lot of the runoff that was coming down here. That's already been implemented. Will flow into this basin. Another good improvement. We had a lot of erosion in this area. Just going to switch sheets here. So on the second sheet, over here, this basin, this was a good improvement. We were able to kind of put that in. It's in the restoration area. I know Scott Morrison was out there too. He's going to look at, adding some plantings into that to assist. But that reduced a lot of the load that was going down to this outlet by picking up this portion of the road. So that was a good improvement to help with this discharge. And then also, which we've talked about already, was that in the area here, we added these two type of kind of basin structures, which pulled back that direct discharge that we had. Those seem to be functioning well. This one wasn't online, but this one was, and there was a lot of concern here. So it's been assisting. I think it's been a good improvement. And then those areas will also be planted too. So I'm happy with the progress that's been made for the stormwater improvements. Like I said, I think it's going to be a good benefit. There's still some things that need to get figured out, and working on a revised O&M plan and get the as-built plan to reflect all the changes out there. But I think they're making good progress. The site is very well stabilized now, which is a big help, because we had so much open area, and that was a lot of the sediment that we were seeing into the resource area. So that's been improved. Just to go back a couple of the areas on the first sheet, I'm not sure what the plan is, but if there could be deep sumps added to these catch basins, I think that would be helpful. I'm not sure if that's part of the plan. I know they've been putting those in where they can. So I just want to add that comment there.
Hey, Becky, Corey, yeah, those are going to be replaced and with heave sumps like the structures that were installed. So yeah, they're going to replace those pipes there. They're undersized and in rough condition. So
yeah. That's all I have for comments.
Board, Mr. Haldeman, I can't see Dave. Dave, you there? Steve, go.
Leave it on this sheet here. Of course, I guess we have to see a plan about that pickleball, that 120 foot rather than 50 foot pickleball place. I don't know, Becky, if you have that in front of you or not, but that's something that's kind of sprung on us. But I remember the amount of trees that were cut down to talk about where the original 30 by 50, I believe, pickle next to the building there. I remember seeing the footprint marked off for that building and a huge number of really big trees cut down, and nobody seemed to know why. I would like to see that grassed in and some shrubs of some sort put in there, and that way it's not going to be, I think we're going to put a patio in or something like that. Grass it in and put in some shrubs is what I'd like to see happen here. It's not a good trade-off for those enormous trees that got cut, but so what?
Stephen?
I had exactly the same comment that Steve just made. I distinctly remember the very first time we went out and we viewed what was the area that was going to be cut. They had the foundation of the building marked out and what trees were going to come down and what were going to stay. And there was just a tremendous additional number of trees came out. I don't even remember a discussion of a pickleball court being next to the building when we originally had the site visit. So I agree. And if there's additional trees that need to come down to accommodate a different location, I want to know about it, and we need to talk about it.
Eric?
Yeah, so Becky, I'm curious, when we had that huge rain event, what was that, a week and a half ago, did you follow up with the butter to see if there was any turbidity into his pond that was a result of that? Or does it seem like the adjustments that they've been making on site have been working?
Yeah, I have been following up with him. I can't say offhand if the one a week and a half ago I followed up with him, but I did follow up with him recently. It probably was that event, and he hasn't had any turbidity issues since the improvements have been made. I mean, also keep in mind they did put a temporary dam up in the duck pond, so that's helping too. But right, he said he hasn't had any issues the last time I followed up with him.
So the improvements seem to be performing.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Yeah. Becky, I guess I'm going along with this. My name should be Steve. I don't know how we'd spell it because I agree with Steve and Steven. Anything that's going to, he mentioned a change that might take down 9 trees. That has got to come back through and be approved. And if the new pickleball, is that what they call it? The new pickleball courts they're going to have to clean some more trees out. That would have to come back, even if it's outside the 200. We have an approved plan. And I would like to see, unlike Steve, I'm more like Steven, I'd like to see trees replanted in the old pickleball area and I guess that's my attitude overall. I'm really pleased with the improvements that Corey and that have been made, Jim Pioppi. But on the other hand, it's not a carte blanche, and I don't want any more trees cut out there without our approval.
Well, I think that's why we're discussing that now. the recreational area that is new today, so I wasn't aware of that before. I mean, I just kind of zoomed in so you can look at it. One, we can get them to confirm that no additional tree removal is required for it, but just, I mean, it is outside, primarily outside the 200-foot buffer zone.
But it's on a plan that we approved, and we let them cut down well within the 100-foot for the pickleball court. So I don't consider that a rational argument.
Yeah, well, I think you guys should discuss that and decide if you need some more information before you want to approve it or not. I just kind of zoomed in here.
I mean, you got some questions on whether we want to know about what's happening with the old pickleball court and how many trees are going to come down for the new one, and those are the things we want to know before they do it.
I can address that. I think I finally just got on with Jim Piappi. This is Philip Moreau, if you'd like.
Hey, Philip, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I also have Scott Morrison
Corey just took us through everything that you're doing, which is great. Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah.
And I've been trying to literally get online for the last 2 hours, and it's rather frustrating, so I apologize. At any rate, we have Corey, who's done his debriefing, and I have Scott Morrison here. Scott, are you there? Scott, are you there? I guess Scott's not there. But I can address the mitigation of the trees if you'd like.
Go ahead.
And I can basically the mitigation approach, the mitigation calls for approximately 213 trees at 6 to 8 feet in height, and it calls for 284 shrubs at 3 to 4 feet at height. Now, the retail cost for the trees is about $300. The retail cost for the shrubs is about $40. We've engaged an arborist to procure that stock immediately, and he's working with, I think, 2 suppliers. And we're taking a first wave and second wave approach. We're immediately going to start with first wave planning subject to weather and stock availability. The first wave will include approximately 100 trees and 140 shrubs. The first wave priority areas include areas 1 through 4 at the front entrance and area 8 on the west side of the old Lakeshore Drive. And that 1 through 4 area does include that pickleball area where we have a total of, I believe, 25 trees and 90 shrubs going in that area.
Well, how many trees are there now?
How many trees are in that area?
Pickleball area.
Numerous. That area. No, that area hasn't changed.
I said, are those trees staying in the pickleball area?
There are no trees in the pickleball area. Are you referring to the old pickleball area next to the conference center?
No, I was talking about the
proposed.
The new one.
No, that area is all clear. It was going to be used for the hillside retention pond. We believe that we did not need that much retention, and we're able to make it a recreation area, outdoor recreation. So there'll be no more trees cut in that area, period.
Because there aren't any there.
Because they've been cleared to make room for the retention pond that we were going to put. We can.
Now, what about the other pickleball area?
That really is just being used as a parking area adjacent to the conference center for the time being, and we haven't made any changes or making any proposals for that area other than taking that old area where it was adjacent to the conference center, moving it out of the jurisdiction across the street. If that is not, if that's a concern of the commission, and I'll be happy to put it next door to the conference center. I thought it was less invasive and more well suited, and it's about the original pickleball plan was to have probably 2 pickleball courts, and that's all we're calling for now is 2 pickleball courts, but they're end to end as opposed to side by side. In the area adjacent to the beach conference center that was approved, we had them side by side. And in the area where we're moving them now out of jurisdiction, we still have 2 courts, but the area is not wide enough to put them side by side, but it was long enough to both meet our retention needs for water and to perhaps provide a little more outdoor recreation in the spirit of being down by the beach, having outdoor showers, and making that a more enjoyable, pleasant area for our RVer guests. That was the sole intention, and it was nothing more than just trying to make that area more flowing, if you will, and provide perhaps some more additional parking at the beach area. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was wondering if any of the commission had any. Steve Haldeman?
Yeah, I have a thought. Yeah, one is I know the number of plans that come across our desk is large. Do we actually have a plan that shows pickleball courts? I know this might be a stupid question, but I don't recall personally seeing pickleball court.
I'm looking at a plan on my wall that has the pickleball court right next to the beach conference center. It also has demarked on it all 14 restoration zones that show the square footage of each of the restoration zones. And this was a plan that was prepared by Summit Engineering that I'm sure was submitted to the commission. And the date on it is, I can't see the date, but it's a big, large color plan with different zones showing the mitigation and all the restoration that was hammered out with the commission.
It was not a huge deal. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it wasn't a huge deal. I was just saying that I missed that because originally there wasn't a pickleball on the original plan, but that's not a big deal. What I would like to just say as a comment, and you might not have been online before, but Stephen Chidester and I were both saying that we'd like to see that grassed in and some trees planted. I mentioned shrubs. I was thinking berrying and all that because Dave seems to be missing. And Stephen and Dave and Chairman Ed suggested that there would be actual trees planted in there. And so I just want that's my comment is I'm happy to see the ball court taken out of there, but I'd like trees and grass in there. And that's my comment to the commission.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on Steve's comment, I don't think that a parking area by the beach is a trade-off for a pickleball court. You know, something that's a better use of the land. And so I absolutely agree with what Steve just said. I'd like to see it restored and planted and, you know, have some value to the habitat.
Yeah, the June 14th, 2018, or what year?
Did you hear what he said?
2019.
Phil, did you hear what he said?
Yes.
I just was wondering if you heard what he said. Okay.
Yeah, I heard that he wants the pickleball back where it was on the plan that I'm looking at now, as opposed to moving it.
No, he didn't say that at all. You didn't hear what he said. That's exactly
he wanted trees planted. He wanted
trees there. What he said was, if you're not going to put a pickleball court there, then you should replant it. That's what he said.
Right.
And we're not, we're not saying we want the pickleball court there. We're happy to see it taken out. That's why I said I didn't even know that it was going to be there. That's my problem. I mean, I just haven't caught up with every aspect. But we're saying that we're happy that pickleball court's out of there, but we prefer to see it
grassed in and trees planted and not parking or a patio or anything like that.
That's fine.
Phil, we gave you
Okay,
guys
good.
some leeway, and it seems to me like you're taking advantage of us right now.
I'm,
pickleball courts and marking stuff in, and it's
I'll
on
leave
your
it
wall.
exactly. I'll leave it exactly the way it is. I'll leave it exactly the way it is. I honestly thought it was a net benefit. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. And either the
Nobody
pickleball
said,
court
no,
will.
see, you didn't hear. You didn't hear. You
Phil.
said you were going to. Did you hear what I said? I said, if you're going to move the pickleball courts out, which is fine, but we don't want a parking area there, you're going to replant that area.
That's fine.
Right. We're happy that the pickleball court is going out of there. That's that's clear that we're happy to see that pickleball court go. You've got a better place for it. We're happy that. We're just saying we'd like to see some trees because we were all pretty amazed when those trees were cut down in the first place. And those were big trees.
Right. Yeah, Scott Morrison here. I think there were some, I apologize. I went to unmute myself and disconnected myself earlier. There are, in a mitigation plan, there are some trees and shrubs proposed around that conference center that will be planted.
Okay, great.
We'll just talk, I guess afterwards, Phil and I and the project team can discuss the pickleball court and the ramifications for that. If we can I know you're kind of pressed for time, so we can kind of move on to other things if the commission has other questions.
No. Eric, you got any questions?
Nope.
Dave Barnacle, are you there?
Still here.
Dave?
I'm still here. I haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything to say? I thought I called on you before, but I didn't get you. So.
The only things I have to say are relative to the Conservation Commission problem that we have with the dates of April 30th that have not been taken care of. One of them is going to be taken care of tonight because we're going to be voting on the environmental people to go over and take a look at the pond and see what kind of damage has been done on the pond. But as I pointed out before, we still do not have answers to several of the questions. The plan tonight seems to me like what we're doing is we're fixing a problem that didn't exist before, but there is no plan for that problem. And we don't know if any of the problems are popping up, so what we're doing is we'll help the Skelter fix this problem now and watch it for a day or two and see if it makes the problem any better. And if it doesn't make it better, then we'll try something else. And I didn't think that that was how a plan actually worked. I thought that we looked at a site and the site engineers came up with a plan and they came with their indications based upon mathematical problem solutions, and they put it in writing and we approved them. And this plan, this whole thing has gone completely offline. This is a train that's running without tracks.
Dave, this is Jim Piaffi. How you doing? I take offense to your comments. First of all, you approved the plan. I don't understand why you're so hung up on a plan. It would be refreshing if you showed up on the site and looked at some of the stuff we're doing and the problems we're addressing, and they would be obvious that the problems have been resolved. I'm not saying there aren't a few more that may come up, but it would be unrealistic to think with as much ground that has been disturbed at this place that there wouldn't be a few minor changes to be made. And I don't think there's an engineer, unless, that you could have a plan that was totally overkill, but I think, you're hung up on the plan and we're more, we're trying to come up with something that performs and has results and has a positive impact on the environment. And I don't get this plan thing. I mean, you already approved the plan.
Jim, the amount of land that was opened to the environment, stripping off all of the topsoil, was absolutely not part of the plan that we approved. And taking down the number of trees that were taken down was not part of the plan that we approved. Therefore, lots of other things have happened as a result of those two actions alone. That is one of the reasons why we like to have a plan, because then we can anticipate things as they go along.
That may be the
Scott
case,
Morrison.
but, you know, go ahead, Scott.
Scott Morrison
All right,
here.
gentlemen.
Can I kind of interject quickly? I've been involved kind of from the get-go, and we've provided detailed plans. We've permitted things. There were obviously some major issues, major erosion issues, and with deltas out in the pond from these discharges before. So there had been some significant issues ongoing for years and years and years. The plan was provided, some significant stormwater improvements were provided in the approved plan. Those were, installed and initiated and constructed. There were still, several that weren't, additional sediment traps or additional deep sump catch basins or additional basins. So what Jimmy Pioppi's kind of done is kind of retrofitted some of the old things to make some significant improvements from some of these point source discharges. So I think it's kind of a combination of, a detailed plan was provided, was reviewed, was approved by the Conservation Commission, but I think they're kind of, Jim Pioppi's kind of going above and beyond to ensure that there's additional sediment traps, additional basins. So it's kind of, you're saying that it's kind of done on the fly, but I think he's addressing the issues that are occurring and kind of, making some minor modifications to make sure that the water that gets to the lake, the water that gets to the stream that comes out of the lake is, in fact, as clean as possible and is not causing additional erosion on the roads that are constructed. And I think long term, it's going to be a significant improvement over the conditions that existed before this work was initiated. So I think I understand the Commission's concern, but at the same token, Jimmy Pioppi's on the ground looking at these things and addressing them head on and making, necessary improvements as things come up.
Excuse me, Scott. The other thing is, Dave, at this point, I mean, it's not a conceptual plan. We have a 80% completed full-scale model. And, if you're really interested, I'd be happy to take you on a tour with Becky and explain stuff so you can see it firsthand. I mean, maybe I'm a little late in the game, but you definitely approved a plan that, to be perfectly honest with you, was inadequate, and there's components in it that had no business being on a plan or approved for. I mean, they wouldn't be sized correctly for yard drainage, residential drainage. So, I mean, I really put a lot of effort into this, and we're going to draw a plan. Corey's drawing a plan as we go. I mean, at this point, what do you want to do? We're not starting from the beginning. We're starting in the middle.
Could I just make one comment, Mr. Chairman? This is Steve Alderman.
Sure, one comment.
Yeah, one comment. What I think you don't understand, Mr. Pioppi, and what Dave is referring to, is we approved a plan, and there were massive, all capitalized, underlined 3 times in red, massive changes that were done on that property that had nothing to do with the plan. So we've had a couple of plans in the meantime. Now, it looks to me that these last things that have been done on the stormwater have worked, according to what Becky just said a couple of minutes ago, that those things have worked. So that's great. But you just need to understand that this commission addressed, agreed with a plan, and then we went out there And as they say on YouTube, it was jaw-dropping what we saw, the number of trees that were cut and the amount of bulldozing and the amount of topsoil. So that's kind of like before you were on board. I just needed to say that.
I don't, my comment, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way, but the inadequacies in the plan are much less to do with the amount of disturbed area and more to do with the incorrect design of road profiles and drainage, because I don't believe the length of the roads, the amount of roads changed at all. And it's road profiles, grading, and drainage placement that is making a difference here, as well as, getting grass growing. I'm not disagreeing with that, but those are the inadequacies in the plan: pipe sizing, number of.
I'm going to try and cut this down here. Wait, Jimmy, you didn't. Jimmy, what was the last time you put in a pickleball court?
I don't even know what a pickleball.
No, you don't know it. Yeah, that was the primary complaint tonight. We found out about a pickleball court being moved. So I just thought I would check with you on that.
We'll have to get a plan.
I think what Jim has done, and what Corey has done,
and Becky
has been good, and where it came from was the disaster that Steve outlined. I don't question that either. I don't know whether the plan that was originally designed would have worked or not, because it was never executed. In all honesty, but we need to move forward. Becky, we need to take a hard look at the plan, the progress that's been made, and what it looks like on the plan that we have. Because if we have buildings that have been moved around and pickleball courts that have been moved around, that's not going to be acceptable. You know that. So, I think we should cut it off here, and rather than go, because we all go into our own positions on it, and we all know what the other positions are.
So I guess if I can, sorry to interrupt. They're asking if they can make the change to the pickleball court. So I think that needs to be discussed, and they'd like a decision on if you think that at this time they can make that revision.
Well, I think you need a little bit more than some turquoise on some green on with a marker on an existing, in an existing spot. What's going to come down, and you have to take a look at it and tell us, and we'll approve it. What's going to happen with the old pickleball court, and if there are no trees on the old one, then we'll have to, make it along that line.
Eddie, what's the surface of the pickleball court?
What?
What's the surface? The pickleball court, what's the surface?
I have no idea.
I believe that area is cleared right now. I mean,
yeah.
But what's the surface of the
pickleball
court?
I don't know. Jim Biop is the expert
it
on
might just be mulched.
pickleball courts. I have nothing to do with that.
It's just
I think they're wood.
no.
No, I believe it's like a tennis court.
It's a tennis court.
I believe that it's asphalt.
Corey, it's a paved or concrete surface. It's impervious.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that the people coming to this place will want to use them. So Jim, I'm sorry about the pickleball comment. I know you're.
So I guess what I'm getting is, Ed, you're looking for some more information. The board would like some more information about the revision of the pickleball court, since that was something new that wasn't previously discussed or looked at before installation. All right, and I guess the only other...
and if there's an area that needs to be changed and it needs to have trees come down, we want to know about that.
Okay. As far
anything
as
that
that,
has anything to do with trees coming down now. I mean, the place has been logged, stripped, bulldozed. So.
okay. Well, and that's
I
what.
think
So maybe it would be useful soon to maybe go out and take a look, because I think they're requesting the revision to include the basin down by the stream, and that would require some tree removal as discussed.
9 trees,
so I
right?
think that, yep, I think that, and Corey said that he can look at it. Maybe there's a few trees less trees in that area that can come out. One thing, when I provided my earlier comments that I wasn't really clear about, so with the revision of moving the pickleball court here, I didn't realize that the original hillside basin was going to be minimized. So one thing I guess to take into consideration and maybe should be thought about is if that hillside basin was brought back to its original size, would that reduce the need for the size down here by the outlet? Because I think it was going to be much bigger than the proposed size there now. So if we had a bigger basin up on the hillside, I think we could probably minimize the structure down here by the stream, which would be a benefit and minimize any additional riverfront work in that area. So maybe that's something that can be looked at too.
Okay, great. All right, gentlemen, anything else? Well, we're going to wear each other out. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Corey, hey, Corey. Corey, thanks. Good job. Stay with it.
We'll do it. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Eddie. Hey, Eddie.
What?
I think I could probably get you some complimentary pickleball lessons.
we'll wait till after the COVID-19 is over.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so just one other item was the review of the proposals. So I did provide you with proposals. I did seek requests from 5 different companies. We did receive back 3 proposals, which were provided to you. I did receive one this afternoon, which I did not further provide to you at this time, since it came in very late in the game. So you did receive proposals from Stantec, Interfluve, and Ty and Bond. Hoping that you had a chance to review those. My recommendation. Oh, go ahead.
No, we use Interfluve. We got really experience with them, because the ones that dam removal program over lead mine property. You hear that?
I'm having trouble with hearing what David is saying.
I didn't hear what Dave said.
Interfluve.
You're recommending Interfluve?
Yes, sir.
Didn't we talk about this at the last meeting? Ty and Bond is probably not a good idea. We've got, we're involved with them as a town, right? And what was the other one?
Stantec.
Stantec? What do you recommend, Becky?
And I think that Stantec or Interfluve would be my recommendations. I guess I would lean towards the Interfluve as they're specialists, and this is obviously what they specialize in. I did think that Stantec was very thorough with their research to submit the proposal. I did have a lot of discussions with their wetland consultant. They're not specialists in this, but they have vast experience reviewing sites for impacts related with enforcement orders, wetland delineations, et cetera. I think either organization would be competent to do the work for us.
Okay. David wants Interfluve. Steve, what do you want?
Yeah, I reviewed all the proposals, and I've worked with Stantec in the past. And I think that we really should go with Interfluve. They are truly the experts and restoration experts. So when they're looking at reviewing this, they can also, with a tremendous amount of expertise, be thinking about how this mess would be restored. So
Okay.
I sent a snail over to Becky saying that I recommend Interfluve.
Stephen?
I agree. Interfluve.
And Eric?
I mean, I'm not going to go against the wind on this one, so. Yeah.
I agree with Interfluve myself, so that we have a decision there.
Okay.
We do.
Yeah. All right, let me just make it formal.
Unanimous.
Yeah. Interfluve. David?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, Becky, you got it.
Thank you. I think that's everything.
Thank you, you did the work.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have
There
a
you
second?
go. Attaboy. I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Steve Holden,
Aye.
in favor.
Yeah.
Aye.
I got them all. Everybody's hands are up in the air. Steve's already shut his machine off.
You guys take care.
All
Thank you.
right.
Good work.
Yeah, we had some, all right, Jeff, we had some, we got to